I start the internet. Hello, internet. I think I screwed this up again somehow.
Was that the fade out? Was that the fade out?
God,
I guess I got a drag going on.
No, I fixed
okay?
that too. I unmute.
Okay?
God, this is the
14,
worst
double
podcast
seven?
on the internet
I can't even
because
say it's episode 13.
no, it's 14.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, the last one went okay. No, I unmuted the wrong thing, so the intro didn't play when it was supposed to play. So I think it was just us talking and an abrupt stop to the music. I apologize, internet. How's everyone doing? This is the game brought to you by Dungeon Studios, the worst podcast and radio and web show on the internet. At least the worst run by your host Grom, the grumpiest of the old man Merwins. Joined today with my ever-present host, a doctor as far as you know, Dr.Pletorius. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, greetings, everybody. It's good to be back. Feeling a bit better than usual, so I'm excited to be here.
I didn't get a chance to write a funny intro for you. I forgot it until exactly this moment.
That's okay.
So,
That's okay. I'm sure you'll say some funny things about me tonight before we're done.
I usually will get a chance to, but before we go any further, I want to introduce our guest for episode 14, the Forever DM. Forever DM, how the hell you doing?
Doing really good. Psyched to be here.
Wonderful. I'm going to have a little bit of feedback. I'm making sure everything's good on our broadcast.
Doing really good.
Perfect. All right, now I can just put that quiet and ignore the fact we're on the internet. Thank you, buddy, for being here. I have been looking forward to talk to you for several weeks and am very fired up about the whole thing. But before I can get into anything that I want to do, I am required contractually to give a shameless plug for our sponsor, our host, and our producer, Dungeon Studios. So let me begin with this. Kickstarter's over. We're moving on to new things. I just did an exceptional recording session for one of our new projects, The Fables of the Forgotten Tales from Eneron. I look forward to it being a web series. Now, I don't know how old you are, Forever DM. I'm just as ancient as you can get. Doc is a slightly moldier vintage than I. But do you remember radio dramas, teleplays, those kind of things?
I definitely do.
Okay. I am a gigantic fan of them. I got hooked as a kid, and even in my non-nerd life, like I prefer to listen to some things. Like I like to listen to the radio broadcast of a football game. For those of you out there under 75, a radio is a thing that used to be in your car before you had podcasts and
all we hear is Radio Gaga. Okay, come on, let's go.
Calm yourself down there. See, he's fired up. Definitely fired up tonight. But anyways, we're launching that soon. We're working on it. We have another thing out there for short format people, the deception checks. Doc, have you listened to any of these?
Yeah, they are a lot of fun. Deception checks is a lot of fun. We call up some real people and hit them with some D&D hardcore and see if we can deceive them.
Yeah, so you can check that out on TikTok. I believe we also throw them up on our Facebook page. You can see them there, but definitely check it out. We're building that content. It's harmless fun. Nobody gets hurt, and we laugh hysterically the entire time. I keep pushing ideas on this whole thing. I don't know how crazy we're going to get. I had one that might have gone a little bit too far. I thought about... well, I won't spoil any of them. If you want to know the crazy,
you got to hear them. You got to hear them. It's great. There's one 3 boots tall. That's very specific.
I'm gonna give you my favorite line for one out of context. It's like, oh, where am I calling from? Oh, it's the village of your mum, or the village of burnt the fuck down because your men abandoned us. That's my favorite line so far. So check it out. I think they're hilarious. We keep putting them out there. And shout out to Majizzy Pod, Mike and Jeremy, Steal Your Podcast. Yeah. Mike is one of our guys who's hanging out, and he's been helping us out with that. Great voice, great energy, good personality. So please enjoy. Like always, Doc, where can they find all of our stuff?
Oh, at dungeonstudios.co. We have a cool website. We have a Patreon, but we're going to be folding that up and moving all directly to our website with exclusive member-only kind of content stuff. It's going to be easier for us to get you your stuff too as well. We have all kinds of free stuff there with our Enron Chronicle. You got to get there and check it out. Check it out.
Absolutely, and we're working on a bunch of other stuff, and I'm sure we're going to get into it at some point in time. Forever DM, we were talking about your art friend, collaborator on your stream, creator of all the things, and I believe we were figuring out something to do to kind of cross promote, get his comic strips.
Yeah, they're gonna actually start premiering in the Enron Chronicle as well.
Wonderful.
Yep.
We can distribute them to our ones of fans. Won't that be an amazing bump to you all?
Hey, the doodliest of poodles deserves to be seen. That's for
I
sure.
love that name, by the way. Doodle. That's hilarious.
Hey, I've been tracking, these kind of magazine things for, free stuff for a while, and there hasn't been anything out there. Enron Chronicle is the thing. You got a one-page adventure, you have some fiction in there, and now we got a cartoon strip. I mean, it's awesome. I think everybody should be checking it out. Without a doubt, it's something really awesome, and a lot of creative people have put a lot of creative talent into it. So that's what makes it so great.
Yeah, I've already snagged a couple of the items out of one of them for use.
Oh
so.
yeah. I didn't even mention there's all kinds of cards in there too, monsters and items, and all kinds of stuff out there. It's great. Like I said, there's so many people contributing to it that there's so much to pull out of it. And that's another future project we're hoping to jump into soon. But I don't think I'm allowed to talk about anything else yet.
We're
top secret. They might blow me up.
Yeah, we're getting there. Well, FDM or Corwin. I'll use Corwin for the remainder of the show, just because I'm going to screw it up if I try not to. Anyways, I don't know if you listen to some of our episodes, so you may be aware that the government listens to us and kicks us off the internet when we get.
We get kicked off at specific times and periods.
I had one. I'll tell you something. I had one last night talking to somebody, and there's always a level of it. Like, I love conspiracy theories, mostly because as a nerd who does games and things, I like to steal ideas, and that shit fascinates me. But you can always tell some people are a little too deep when they hit you with specifics. I was talking to a person last night, and they're like, it's like, I got one for you. Did you know that 392 feet below the edge of the fence at Area 51, that's where the aliens' colony is, where they monitor us? I'm like, that's a really specific number. I know. It's got significance. I'm like, thanks, man. I got to go over here. But I love talking to you. I'll totally never come back this way again.
Yeah, when they start breaking out the Fibonacci sequence and telling you exactly how the spiral works, you're like, okay, it's just
it's the
simple
sacred
way.
geometry. It's wonderful.
Hey, watch the geometry, you guys.
Again, I love that shit. I love it.
All right.
Absolute ton. But that
Pattern-seeking animals.
Yeah. So one final thing in the shameless plug. We just brought in writers. We brought in voice actors. We're always getting new talent for our various projects. And we can always use playtesters, DMs that want to run material. You can come on, join up with us. And like we have said numerous times, if you don't have a regular game, you got a weird schedule, playtests are a great way to get in and get some game time and meet people that can become your eventual home game people.
And I know they made me the playtest coordinator too. I have to put that out there that I'm looking for some DMs to playtest our material outside Dungeon Studios, maybe at your home table. So if you're a DM and you're interested in that, reach out to me at our Discord. We'll get all the right paperwork signed and get you to test play these modules before we get them out. We have 2 weeks left, Merwin, right?
I think we have like 4 days, all of which I'm going to be sleeping or working my day job.
4 days? 4 days?
I don't know. What day is today? I have no idea what's going on. But anyways, though, it is a Sunday session special to accommodate and have our guest on here, the Forever DM. So as we warned you ahead of time, we're going to force you to talk and make our show better, because this is where we turn to you to get your nerd cred. We want your nerd origin story. Hit me up. What do you got? When did you start?
There's a lot, unfortunately, but I've managed to parse it out a little bit so I don't so I can try and bring it up instead of bringing your show down, because that's what we're aiming for.
I think we've mentioned this is the worst show ever. I don't know if you could go any lower.
Yep, you might be surprised.
There's a basement where to find it. Let me tell you. Go ahead.
You have to go down to go back up, man. That's the way it works.
So, as a kid, I read a lot of books. I always liked the choose your own adventure books, and I also liked Roger Zelazny and Piers Anthony. They're great stuff.
Yeah,
And
classics, Piers Anthony. Yeah.
yes, when I was 13, my mom got me that first hit and bought me a box that had Zanzertem's Dungeon in it, and that was our nice old school. It had the nice folder with all the little handouts, and it was basically a choose your own adventure with stats, which I thought was the most awesome thing in the world. After that, I started writing my own stories with friends. We'd just sit there and talk back and forth and create weird adventures. I started making stats and stories for everything from Stratego to chess, changing up the rules. And then I rediscovered D&D in high school. As an inner city kid in the Tenderloin of San Francisco, it was kind of hard to find fellow gamers.
So what years did you go to high school? So I get an idea.
I am actually the quintessential millennial is what they call us.
Okay.
I was out of high school at 2000. I was 18. And we rediscovered in high school Dungeons and Dragons, and the hits just kept coming. I got into a second edition game with an older DM, and he let me homebrew my first thing, which was the Dragoon class from Final Fantasy.
Well, you're at the end of the 90s too. It was perfect. Oh, there's so many rules out. There's so much, and everything was coming together for home brewing.
Oh yeah, we were getting skills and powers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That was either the best point or the worst point of second edition, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, depending on where you're going with it. Yeah.
And then
system, remember those?
Oh man,
For your character, like
your Blade Singer kit that everyone had.
That's where that shit started.
Yep. That was the first step in my my long downfall or rise. I discovered World of Darkness next, got immersed in that, which they've since destroyed. I got into Mind's Eye Theater. I found out LARPing existed. I found a teacher and started to learn how to sword fight and started going to tournaments and fairs all up and down California.
And this was LARPing sword fighting. Okay.
Yeah, it was. We did everything from Renaissance reenactment to actually LARPing. We did Adventurers Inn, which was a live-action role-playing game. Bortwa, which was a fantasy combat. So, offer swords, swatting each other and casting spells and looking like nerds. We did Northern and Southern Fair, and I just did whatever job I could to feed my habit.
No, that's the way it is. Definitely a habit. No, the game is a habit. That's true.
Yep. 100%. And after that, I just kind of slowly and surely got older. Went through, fast forwarded a couple of marriages and a couple of degrees. Ended up working in the IT circuit. When COVID kind of changed things and we went super online, a lot of things crashed down, including my job at the time. So my girlfriend and I, we went, let's take the show on the road, and embraced creating a community online and a gaming production that people can love to watch. And so now we're doing the best available.
Yeah, I'm watching this week has been really, really an eye opener for me. I can't wait to ask you more about it too.
I got a bunch
of really
of
cool
about...
community they've built. Really, really cool community they've built.
Yeah, it has been a wild ride.
I'm looking forward to picking your brain about some of your partnerships, how you met certain people, but also some of your stylistic choices for the live play, things that maybe are a little in the weeds for those nerds outside of producing nerd stuff, but they're interesting to me, so you all can suffer. I don't care.
Well, all right.
Well, and I get to enjoy having my brain picked, because most of the time the other nerds don't want to hear about that. They're like, no, I just want to watch the video, man. Stop, please.
Yeah, I realized I have a few things wrong with me. One of which, and I'm trying to get better at this, and maybe this is a thing that you guys suffer from. I grew up in an era when talking about nerd stuff was, it was foreboding. I've joked before, me and my home group friends, we have, Code Red. So I call up, hey man, I want to talk to you about something. Hey, I'm Code Red right now. Oh yeah, hey, so how about that football game? Yeah, it was great. I'll talk to you tomorrow. You're around.
It was even worse for me. There was like no discussion of it. I remember going to see like a Next Generation movie. Was it the first one with the crossover movie?
Okay.
And I said something to somebody like, all right, hailing frequencies open. And someone's like, don't make any Star Trek references outside this place.
Yep.
Dude, come on. It's not like I'm wearing a Star Trek shirt or anything. Come on.
That was yesterday. My uniform's in the wash. But
Unfortunately, you're talking to the guy who, when Lord of the Rings came out, I was in full garb fencing over the thing where people were walking in.
Yeah.
No worries.
We were the total opposite. Instead of verboten, we were 100% out there. Nerd flag fly.
Well, just so you know, it's our feet that walked the bloody ground that made the path upon which you nerded in public for a
That's
movie.
right.
So
That's right.
You
Yes.
are welcome.
Very true.
It was
very
uphill in the snow, 20 miles both ways. But that's how it goes. But yeah, no, I remember being like that. And so I had this problem. Whenever I would run into somebody that was into it, the floodgate would open and I would nerd vomit on them. Like, and then and they'd be like, cool, I gotta go, and they would never come back again because it was just too much. So I'm like, oh, I gotta scale that back a little bit. You gotta ease them into it, and be clever, like I was when I met my wife. Poor thing. I'm like, hey, he had just started dating. Our anniversary actually is coming up. It's the 1st of February, and I go, hey, I had a great weekend. I'm very excited about this whole thing, but just I have a prior engagement. I travel and I play cards like semi-professionally, so I'm going to be going to an event in Jersey. So hopefully I'll win some money, but I'm really sorry that I got to ditch you like the second weekend we've been dating. She goes, no, that's totally fine. I get it. She's an introverted person, so like having me not jabber at her endlessly was certainly something she was happy about. So I laughed and I kept in touch with her and everything over the weekend. And it was months later when we moved in together. When she goes, oh, what's that backpack with those weird cards in it? I'm like, oh, I told you I play cards semi-professionally. Yeah, this is Magic. This is the game I play. And she goes, you went on a trip the second weekend we were dating to play Magic cards with nerds? I go, yeah, I told you I was going to play cards. She goes, I thought you played poker like a normal person. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I do this. Sorry? She's like, I told everyone that you were going to play poker. I'm like, well, let's not change that. I don't want anyone to know the truth. It's not the kind of thing that I want getting out there. So
That gives Poker Face a whole new meaning, that song.
it does. I do play poker as well, for the record. Thank you very much. But, well, hey, I appreciate the origin story. And like I said, we got a ton of stuff to get into. But before we do that, I want to go over some shit that I forgot. Do you know what I forgot to do? Figure out what shit I forgot from last week. We had a great conversation with Jurgen, another online DM. Talked about some of his trials and tribulations. And actually, I think I forgot to ask him about what was it?
The confessions or his alignment?
No, we did the alignment thing. There was a.
That's what I'm saying. What did you forget?
I forgot what I forgot.
Looks like you forgot again. You double.
This seems to be a repeating.
Yeah,
theme.
so I have a twofold system. My brain is turning to mush. That's just officially going on. But on top of that, I still retain the superpower to remember in detail useless things like movie lines and references. So I'm sure I'll think of it later on. There was a question I wanted to ask him about the production of his videos. Oh, that's what it was. I wanted to ask him why he would choose to run and stream pre-made material as opposed to his own stuff, and if he had built his own world. So, Jurgen, I apologize. I really wanted to get kind of deeper into what your choices were because I know he ran a Descent into Avernus live stream, and then he's doing one that is modified. I think Rime of the Frost Maiden, but I wanted to kind of get his thought.
Yeah, I think he mentioned though that most of his stuff is brewable.
Well, he modifies it.
Yeah,
but why not go full? Why not go full Monty?
Full bore. Yeah, okay, all right. If I'm by their Discord, I'll ask them.
Yeah, because I'm curious about that. Because Corwin, that's a question that I have for you for later on. Not to jump around in the organization of the show, because we're definitely on top of that shit.
You not jump around?
Oh,
you see, now I want to ask Jurgen. So is it Rime of the Frost Maiden into Limerick of the Frost Maiden? It's a little homebrewed, or?
Well, like it's a valid question for you. So you like I said, I know you had said before, and we talked offline before this. It's in Forgotten Realms, so it's a pre-made setting.
Mm-hmm.
but you're not running pre-made adventures, right? Well, you
Uh,
sort of are. You're using the tavern. Tales from the Yawning Portal. That setting in
a
Waterdeep,
little bit.
right? But you're not. I don't think you're going through like the modules because I have the Tales book, so
We're not
but
actually going.
yeah.
Yeah, we're not actually going through the modules from Tales from the Yawning Portal, but we are doing Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Is the
That's what it is? Okay.
primary? Yep.
All right.
The initial adventures were a lead up to that.
Okay.
Of them, getting some renown, becoming trustworthy, because we have a lot of homebrewed stuff that's going on in the background. For instance, instead of just being Dungeon of the Mad Mage, where you just go into Undermountain, there's actually a festival where Hallister sets up 3 keys to chests, and then Undermountain gets overrun with monsters, and if nobody stops it, they flood into the city. So they gather parties and send them in
Okay. So
in a contest.
a different setup. Okay. So
Yeah, it's like
it
a
will lead
twist,
into some
with a
pre-published
twist.
stuff. All right.
Yep.
But there's, like you said, those are questions that I like to ask. I have a different perspective on the very limited and very terrible things I've streamed. Which if you ever want to get a real scary view on how good I am at the game, good being sarcastic for those of you that can't see my face. I have some stuff on Twitch. We streamed a charity event that we ran in some of my home game, and it's 0 production quality, awful, terrible sound, and it's just the raw D&D experience. And you can see how I run games, which is basically like a train wreck on fire. It's great.
Merwin, I have to ask you: did that question come about because of everything going on with 2.170 XY?
No, it did not. And for once, I've promised myself that I was going to try to contain.
I didn't say it. Okay,
But
keep going on.
I know
Let's
that
keep
we're
going on.
going to get into it later on as well. So I don't want to get into that topic. We shall that which shall not be named. We shall avoid that for the time being. But no, what made me think about it is this. So, I have never been a fan of running pre-made materials. It was never my thing. And as a creative person, when I thought about running a show and doing a live stream or whatever, like I really want to, and maybe it's because I'm an egotistical maniac and a narcissist, but I wanted to have my material, like it was going to be me. This is what I've created. I'm
the show.
obviously the
On
star.
your show.
I'm the star
Right.
of the show, obviously. But yeah, I wanted to showcase what I had created, and then the players can showcase how they're contributing to it. And that was kind of the idea. And I mean, I think this was a misunderstanding we had before. Like, I like Dragonlance is, that's what got me into the game. I love the setting. Not a fan of the adaptations for the game that they've come out with. It is what it is. But like Forgotten Realms I love that setting, and I ran that for years while working on homebrew stuff when I was a newer DM and everything. So I'm a fan of it. I'm very familiar with it. I have a funny story about the author too. I met Ed Greenwood. I have a little story about that, and also the Arthurs for Dragonlance. Those are stories I'll tell at some point in time too. I met all of those people, but
You met Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman?
I did in fact.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, I had a conversation with them. I actually yelled at them. That's what started it. So the groundwork for me being grumpy was already laid.
Already begun. But let's hear about Corwin. I want to hear about Corwin.
Before we talk about, we're going to talk about Corwin, but we're going to do it in our week in gaming section, so we always go over what we've done.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
Doc, you had already said you're going to defer to Corwin, but I will let you set it up. What'd you do this week?
Oh, well, I do have to say this. The one thing I've done this week is I have my players on the hook live today.
Okay.
You know how I've separated my Ravenloft crew?
Yeah.
Was the Sea of Sorrows crew, and then there was the crew that actually went into Castle Ravenloft. So they took their first rest in the mirror room, in the arrow slit room, with all the mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
And what I proposed to the players just today, on their ship of the Sea of Sorrows, there's a brain in a jar. And that brain in the jar is actually Esmeralda. And they've met different versions of Esmeralda in the different domains as they've traveled through the domains. She's been sort of disjuncted. And she has invited them to pass through a mirror on the Sea of Sorrows back into Castle Ravenloft So now the whole group is being reunited. Some players will have as many as 3 characters. Some will have 2 characters. Some are coming. It's just, and it's going to be the big finale free for all. And Corin, I'm taking this from you. The non-rest is really going to play into it now that they have this huge cast of characters. They're going to have to get through the rest of the finale because, Castle Ravenloft has so many, you can't rest stuff going on.
Yeah.
That they're going to have to make it with everybody now. They'll have this full barrage of economy that they've have to figure out how to make it all the way through now with the big finale for our Raven Brew. So I'm super pumped. And they just heard they have the choice to step through the ship's mirror now. And they're like, what? And I said, oh, you'll have to tune in and hear what it's about. So if you're out there and you're listening, you have a choice to step through the mirror on the ship and end up in Castle Ravenloft. Which I was just telling Corwin too, I'm very excited because next week we're going to have Black Feather and Gabriel from Hour of the Raven as well. So that's my week in gaming. I did not get to game, but man, listening to the Forever DM and listening to his players play was a joy, and it was really, really great. I heard 3 different settings. I'm going to stop and not even talk about it because they were great. Gosh.
Well, in deference to our guest, do you want to go over your week, Corwin, or I can go over mine, and you can end the segment with yours? What do you want to do?
I can go over mine since I got such a great intro from
He's got to go. He's got to go.
I'm hyped. He got me hyped. I ran it, and I'm still like, yes. So I have several games that I run per week. I run 4 to 5. This week was a 4 week. I have one game which we started at the very beginning of when COVID first happened, and that game has been going on ever since. They're now 18th level, and it has gone from a world that was custom made by me, and now instead they're in Planescape, trying to stop the Great Wheel from stalling.
Yes, I love it. Yes,
that's the most high-powered campaign I've actually run in 5th. Nobody's ever gotten there before, so it's been wild. We've got Spelljammer vessels and aberrations from beyond the veil and all manner of madness.
Yeah, I love that.
I had the Welcome Party on the exact opposite end of that spectrum. It's a special game that we made just for our supporters. We put it together and said, hey, you're making all of this possible and fueling us making more content for you. Let's make a game specifically for you guys. And now we've got a group of 5 first level characters that are going through their own custom module. They've gotten to take a lot of them have taken characters where they have a huge amount of history and have just always wanted to play through that character's story. And so it's become a more role-playing centric game with the adventure right there following alongside it. And I've intertwined all of their stories into the story that they're following.
That's
and
nice.
Everybody's going crazy about that one. Because they're getting to have each of their characters take the spotlight for specific characterful things that drive the main narrative. It's crazy to write, and my whiteboard looks like a madhouse. But when everybody's cheering at the end of the game, I'm like, victory.
Well, I do just a tiny bit of that for my Chronic Explorers, so I can't imagine if you're whiteboarding it too. That's awesome. Go ahead. After the Welcome Party, what's next?
So then we did Saturday, which was, of course, another episode of The Best Available. We do that one every Saturday from 2 to 8. And they are currently on floor 8 of the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. So they went through their initial adventures, and that's how far forward they are. The actual episodes that we have out just takes them through their first adventure. And then we're only just now getting to the point where we're going to release the start of the second. We've got 2 years of content backlog, and we're still going forward. So every time we do another session, which is once a week, we're like, I can't wait until we get to release this as a video. and we have all that lead time to make more art assets, more animations, and talk with our editor and get spell effects and music. Like, it's wild.
It's great. It's great. You have such a bank.
And then today is actually my off week for running, which is something that I didn't used to ever be able to say. I actually have a friend of mine who runs Rapanatuk, which is an old grinder dungeon that's supposed to mercilessly destroy your characters over and over again. And we've only lost 3 people so far. In 5th edition, it's awfully hard to rest in peace, but Rapanatuk finds a way.
Okay, that's interesting to hear.
So I got to play and there's been some scary moments. Today we had 3 people suddenly become were-tigers.
Yes.
And no one knew until we turned into were-tigers in the middle of the night and started attacking people while they were sleeping.
Now I kept thinking, and I didn't want to say anything in the game. I was listening, and I didn't want to say anything in the chat. Does Wolvesbane have anything to do with 5th edition? Or is it only repel werewolves in myth? I don't know. I don't know my werewolf myth that well.
So I know in one of the things we're ramping up to do, and that I've been planning on in D&D this week, so kind of tangentially, is we have an OD&D campaign coming up where we're going to be running the Beckme box set. So Wolvesbane definitely had an effect back then. In 5th edition, I haven't actually seen Wolvesbane doing a thing.
Anything.
Waving a sprig might just make it very upset with you.
All right. Now, did I cut you off in your week? Because there's Planescape, Welcome Party, Best Available in the Mad Mage. Then you did, I'm going to say it wrong,
Rapanathuk.
Rapanathuk.
It's a really weird one. But
like
so is the module, so it's fair.
Okay. And then anything else?
Just planning out our the launch of our OD&D campaign, which we're calling Overdoses and Dragons.
Overdose.
So we called it Original Dungeons and Dragons, and it turned into all of us being completely obsessed with the old BECMI setting, and we're going back to Mystara. We're revamping all the old stuff, and it's going to be madness. So we've all kind of spent lots of hours like reading the old books and then finding the FAQs for the old books because the rules cyclopedia is a mess.
Oh yes, wonderful. All right. Well, since you ended your week on this murder dungeon, and we're not smart enough to figure out how to get the videos to work properly. Tell everybody what your shirt says.
My shirt says "Crying is a free action," and that is. This was bought for me by one of my players whose character had passed in one of my my modules. I ran Storm King's Thunder, and they ate a Storm Giant Boulder. That was the end.
Right in the face, huh?
So I got this for Christmas.
I love it. It's great.
But they all got shirts with the name of our adventuring party on it, and their own 21 on the die for Blackjack, which is what the name of our gaming group was.
Oh, nice. Very cool. My shirt was a Christmas gift as well. It says "World's Okayest DM," which is a moniker that my kid gave me when I taught her how to play a few years back, and she's like, "I mean, you're okay, whatever." I'm like, all right, thanks, I appreciate it. I think I'm amazing, but that's fine. That is fine. So my week, I'm going to start the story with a teaser, and then I'll explain what happened. It started with plotting a murder and ended with buying a child. That's how my week went.
Oh boy.
Well,
quite a swing there, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
is this where the government kicks us offline, or
no?
Pretty soon.
The government doesn't care about trafficking children. We all know that. They're lizard people. They don't mind. Oh wait, I said lizard people. Now we're in trouble.
Yep.
392 feet below surface. Anyways. Despite no, so I run entirely homebrew campaign. I have 2 campaigns written in there. One is the Wolves of Winter, which we wrapped up 2-year game beginning of this year, and then the current one is the Tales of the Northern Province. So it's set in a empire that is at the start of its decline, kind of. And it's very similar to and analogous to like the Roman Empire, the different provinces and everything are uniquely flavored, and the game is set against the backdrop of events that will come to be known as the Springfire Rebellion. So in the game, the party has made it to one of these far border cities that sits, at a narrow mountain pass between the northern province and another kingdom. They made their way. There's a bunch of intrigue and everything. I've gone through some of it. They have a potential patron who has offered them to take them into their service. Some people accepted right away. Some people are kind of on the fence. And as a show of her intentions, she let them know that it had come to her ears that that bodies were disappearing from the city streets before the Kurbane, the city guard, could make their way to collect them. And fearing that something nefarious is going on, like a death cult forming and gathering, bodies for soldiers, she sends them to try to figure out what's going on. And in tracking this down, they come across what appears to be a criminal enterprise known as the Takers, who are paying the poor wretches of the city in silver to report anytime a body turns up, and then the body vanishes shortly thereafter. So investigating this, they find somebody who had recently sold a body. They run into contacts in the criminal underworld. They kind of get themselves in a bit too deep, and they have a conversation with a fixer, essentially about, are you moving in on our business? No, but we're here on our own business, and we may need your services soon. There might be bodies dropping, so we can come to you. Oh, really? Yes. Okay, so they leave and they're like, shit, we shouldn't have talked to that guy. Now we're stuck. Now we got to figure it out. And one of the players in the group tries to sneak off and follow somebody who follows one of the Takers, gets spotted doing it, doesn't realize it, and leads the Takers right back to his party, who are trying to talk to the guy, this guy who had sold the body that they're tracking, right? And they had this wonderful encounter the prior session where they go to where the body's at, the body's missing, they do some investigation and see a small boy from a third-story window kind of poking his dirty face out. So we need to talk to him. He might have seen something. So rather than send, the half-elf or the dwarf, there's plenty of dwarves in the city, or a human, they decide to send the Dragonborn, giant black-scaled creature of nightmares, who, by the way, in my setting, Dragonborn have recently revealed themselves and they're trying to normalize relations with the outside world now. So there's a delegation in the city, but the higher ups just now found out, in the last several months, that they exist, right? Common people have no idea what's going on. So they're in this slum with this drunk and this child who now has this monster force his way into the door. The kid hides under the bed and he grabs the kid, drags him out by his ankle, like, you will tell me what you have seen. Freaks the kid out, right? So the kid's father's a horrible person, and I'm an old school DM from, so everything, my worlds are dark and dirty, everything sucks, everyone's a villain, everyone's gonna get murdered. There's no joy in Mudville when I'm running the game. So, the horrible father and terrible mother situation. So this is the guy they followed back here. They had the encounter with the with the Takers. They talked their way out of it. Although the Takers give up mysteriously easy, which was pointed out by one of the players. He's not wrong. So, and they go, well, shit, they found us. They know we're here. We don't want to blow our cover because we don't want to spook them. We got to do something. And then at the end of the last session, they're like, well, how do we do it? Do we do this? Do we do this? And one of the guys goes, wait a second. The boy's father's in the corner, passed out drunk. He spent his 3 silver on liquor. He's probably going to die. He's probably going to drink himself to death eventually. Yeah, you're probably right. Well, let's just kill him. That's where our last session ended. So we come back and they're discussing the murder, and I go, look, you guys are, none of you guys are evil. I'm not saying you can't do it. Just saying, maybe think about it for a second. Just throwing it out
a little
there.
bit. Just think about it.
So they spend the whole first part of the session debating what to do, and then once their taste for blood, I guess, has been sated, they're like, all right, okay, we can't kill him. Oh, here's what we'll do. He's a terrible guy anyways. We'll just pay him to abandon his family and leave the city. Okay, that works. And
they just went full Blues Brothers. How much further, your daughters?
Right. So they go ahead and they use magic to disguise themselves as this guy. They hide him away in the wealthier part of the city where the Takers can't see him. And one of them pretends to be the dead body and gets dumped and gets taken, right? So they go through all of that, and then at one point someone goes, well, hang on a second. I know the guy was terrible, but we paid him to split town. What are we gonna do with the boy and the mom, like they're gonna struggle. And then one of the players goes, well, I don't know, like let's just buy the kid from him. We'll give him a better life than the parents did. And I'm like, I guess you could do that. So of course the terrible dad's like, yeah, I'll take a couple extra coins. He's yours. So now they have the boy with them, who they have decided they've legally adopted. Well, it's more like indentured servitude. They've they've paid the father for him for an indeterminate number of years. So now they've decided to raise him into their own little thieving protege. And they've already used him to commit at least one crime, which was hysterical. But the best part, though, not that they bought a child, which is pretty awesome, but at the end of it, they're all talking about like what they're going to do because they're like, look, if this kid gets killed, we got a problem. We're gonna riot. You can't kill this kid ever. I'm like, well, I mean, NPCs don't last long. I mean, I can't blame me if the kid bites it. You guys are the ones that took him under your wing. I mean, it's your fault, not mine. I would never do anything so evil as murder your pets.
Yeah, conscripted torchbearers don't last long.
Nope.
Oh no, this kid could turn out to be something else, maybe.
Well, that's the joke. I go, okay, are you guys gonna like hook the mom up? And they're like, nah, we'll just let her suffer. I'm like, so you're trying to create Anakin Skywalker? And they go, of course we are. We know he's gonna be the villain at the end of the game. I'm like, all right, just remember that because when it happens, I don't want you guys blaming me. You did this. You are guilty of this.
That's right.
But look, at the very least, they're going to take care of the kid. He's going to have a better life than he would have had. They're even going to take him. Well, they're going to do for him the same thing we're about to do. They're going to go to the doctor's office. So, doctor, what do you got for us this week?
Oh, nice lead in.
I try.
Well, tonight, I wanted to talk about the power and get into healing crystals. Have either of you heard about healing crystals at all?
Outside of
seriously,
like crazy people that have to get their chakras aligned and
yes,
they got to have their basalt rock next to their bed, otherwise their feng chi is off. Like that kind of stuff.
No, there's supposedly a lot to it. I'm going to specifically look at the quartz crystal right now, which is used for balance. And I'm telling you, being a chronically ill patient, I can definitely say the use of quartz crystals has been kind of relieving a lot of my stress and pain. Now, does it really, what kind of effect does it have really? I don't know. We talk about intentions and positive intentions a lot too when you're chronically ill. So using stones or using minerals in that fashion, there's nothing wrong with it, I don't think. But what's intriguing to me is the amount and kinds that are out there. When you start looking at the different rocks themselves, like I said, with clear quartz, rose quartz is used specifically for romance. Clear quartz is used for clarity. Amethyst is used to help people heal. People that have communication issues carry a piece of lapis lazuli, which is a blue type stone. Now, it might say it's all wonky or whatever, but again, if this is the placebo that's going to help somebody that has an issue or whatever, I mean, I think it's great. I find it more satisfying that someone's wearing a quartz crystal on their neck to give them balance than somebody's wearing, some designer logo that they paid $1 billion for at
I'm with
some,
you. Look,
some jewelers. So I think it's kind of important. I think the other thing that was really interesting as I've been diving into this, they talk about the charging your stones and ways to charge them and how to cleanse your stones, because obviously they store up your negative energy and stuff. And this Merwin, this is where it might get a little bit hokey in some cases.
Okay.
But then in some cases it's not hokey. They talk about putting them out during full moons.
Okay.
And we know that parasites respond during full moons and corals respond during full moons. So there's no reason
hold on.
why.
Parasites respond during full moons?
Oh, absolutely. Parasites respond during full moons.
You're going to have to go back to that and explain that in detail because that sounds both interesting and wild.
Well, that's a whole nother show.
Okay.
If we're going to go into that one in detail, we could bring that up for another magical Q&A, I guess.
All right.
See, I thought that you were talking about your standard 2d4 plus 2 when you were talking about healing crystals. If you're talking about real crystals in real life, that actually is something that I have a little bit of.
Oh, okay. No, that is what I'm actually.
Oh yeah, no, we get
about.
I see in the chat. It is definitely an odd tangent. We go down the rabbit hole with these things, but what we do though is, like we've said 1,000 times, and Corin, I'm sure you will agree, you never give up free content as a DM. And as wacky as any of this shit sounds, in the context of a D&D game, you don't even bat an eyelash. If you walked into a town and like, oh, the NPC sells this crystal and it will keep it by your bedside, it will heal you at night, everybody's going to buy one of those because if you get a couple of extra points while you're resting, no one's complaining about that. No one even bats an eyelash.
Now let me go into a little bit further now. So and we'll get back to you. I definitely want to hear Corin now. Recharging.
One more. If you could please get into it while talking into your microphone.
Sorry.
No, not a problem.
Sorry, I was pulling up my.
I know you're drifting there a little bit. I saw you.
That's okay.
You know, we need to get you. We need to get Doc one of those like the horror cam helmets they do in movies where they put it on your head and the camera's right in front of your face. We're gonna do that for you with the microphone, so that no matter where you physically move, the mic is always in the perfect.
I'm sorry, I have problems with my body movements.
All right, I do the same. Here's the thing, I do the same thing.
You just get one of the. You just get one of the beer helmets with one that just comes down, swings around.
That's a good call. Good call. All right, Doc, continue on.
All right, so they talk about building a crystal charging station, like with a glass terrarium or something. So having them set up, and especially, I always used to like having a Zen garden with like the rake and the sand, but because of my illness, I can't have the sand. So being able to set up your crystals in a Zen pattern or whatever is really can be conforming to like a charging station. Of course, the sun, we know, is a charger itself, UV light. Setting intentions under a moon, and they talk about new moons, full moons. You can even set your intentions for specific crescent moons. Sitting them in soil, they say, also will recharge crystals. And it's funny because I've been thinking about different ways of my own to recharge crystals. And I have some intention rocks that I started using a few years ago that sort of wobble. And I use the crystals to balance those rocks, using them to actually, when the crystal is balancing the rock, it's regaining its energy. And then as I let it go, it tips, the rock tips, and then that, crystal is recharged for me. So it's kind of an interesting way to think about yourself and your own intentions and how things work. Self-intentions have a lot to do with healing. And of course, with the crystals, they say that it helps amplify those intentions for the right chakras. And like I said, I could start reading a billion different rocks and everything, but we can like flip this back into putting it into your game.
Well, before we do that though, I wanted to say a couple things.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I am 100% with you. There are plenty of things that aren't fully understood that have helped people, and the placebo effect is a proven thing. So if it makes you feel better, I don't judge. Not, I'm with it. And let me ask you though, is there anything in your crystal research that talks about crystals like vibrational energy, like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely has a lot to do with it. They talk about recharging them too with tuning forks and using the frequencies when we were talking about the esophageal frequencies.
We've done it before, and I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I read a thing that cats will. There's some mechanism when cats purr, when they're happy, then that vibrational is apparently some sort of benefit to healing the cat, like, and in some way. So maybe it's connected. Who knows?
That is interesting. No, they say the cat's purr too gives off a certain esophageal frequency that promotes relaxation and healing.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that we don't have any, whether you're looking for scientific proof or whether you're looking for approval from a mystic or from some tome of knowledge. as long as what you're doing is helpful to you, and, where it comes from, whether it's from your self focus or whether it's from some mystical property, it's of benefit, and
Right.
there's no reason to not try and follow that path. If you enjoy crystals, I used to carry crystals with me. I had a quartz and an amethyst necklace that I wore for a long time. I had a hematite ring I absolutely loved, and those were great. Sometimes they're just something for you to fiddle with, and it gives you a little bit of comfort to have a worry stone. And some people, like my mom, have the little sand zen garden with the little tiny rake on it and a bunch of stones set up in that. Everybody has their own thing, and if it helps you focus, you're in, like you say, intention begets reality.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
It's one of the reasons producer Josh was stunned that I played like Civilization 6 just by myself like a psychopath. But a lot of it, but part of it is it's very relaxing. And when I write, I like to have that same kind of ambience, background, massage therapy kind of music going, the tones and everything. So yeah, no, and that's my little moment of zen. I don't begrudge anyone that, and I do like, and I agree with you 1,000%. So now back to gaming.
Oh God, there's like a gabillion. There's like
There's
a
a
gabillion.
thousand ways that you can go. So, any crystal related things you've done in games, Corwin? Like, or
Yeah,
from what Doc
actually.
has said, you'd be inspired to tell us about it.
So there was a point in time where I actually crafted one of my own worlds, and I was a big Planescape DM. I absolutely loved the planes, and specifically the elemental, para-elemental, and quasi-elemental planes.
Okay.
And so what I did was I actually took all of those and I broke them down and assigned them to different stones, and then assigned those stones to magical items, to where we had gem crafting as a new way of enchanting magic items in both second edition, and carried it over into 3.5. So if you found a moss agate that was attached to the elemental plane of ooze, and if you had a wizard, insert it into the stone, into a sword, or if you had a skilled smith, craft it into the head of your axe, you would actually do a point of acid damage or a d6 points of acid damage, depending on the quality of the stone.
Nice. Now,
Nice.
any chance does that predate, or was it potentially influenced by was it Final Fantasy VII had that system where you got the slots in your weapons?
Oh, the Materium?
Yeah, Materium. Yeah.
Yep. So 7 would have come out probably after I had the first sketches out of using stones, but I mean,
well,
with pulling magic directly from them, that's a whole ball game that I never got into. They went way further than I did.
Well, the reason I bring that up, just in line with our conspiracy theories, so if the government kicks us off the internet in a second, we'll know I was right. I have long had the joke with my friends, and you can I want to know if you guys have experienced the same thing, where you come up with an idea for your game, and you're like, I got this great idea. We're gonna do crystals, and you put them in the weapons. It'll be awesome. And then like 6 months later, it shows up in media somewhere, and you're like, son of a bitch, they stole my idea.
Nope.
You ever had that happen? And there was a point where I joke with my friends. I'm like, dude, the government's got to be listening in. The government's got to be listening in, and like Hollywood's got all the nerds are bugged. There's a transmitter in every D&D book, and if you say anything cool around it, they're gonna steal that shit. That's for those. Remember. So again, for those people that are old and used to go to bookstores, remember in the old days, you go to like Walden Books. I'm dating myself, and you'd open that up. In the back cover, there was the little security sticker in there. That was the tracking device, so they could steal your ideas. I know it was. But no,
we still go to like half price books and stuff like that. So it's still there in modern day.
Yeah, we have a bookstore like that in our not too far from me. I like to go to it occasionally, and I see someone throwing something in the chat about Baldur's Gate. That's one of the many games I broke because of that, because you could enchant the charisma items. So once you got to a certain point, you bought stuff that was discounted, and it sold for, when you took the crystals off, when you took the gems off, it sold for more than
Yep.
you had bought it for. So it was the infinite money. It was the infinite money loop. So you could totally
Oh
cheat your way through the
gosh.
game like that. Yeah, I
Oh
love
yeah,
doing that kind of
that's
stuff.
that's some divinity level game breaking.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's like, how did no one see this? Who knows? But yeah, crystals in my game, I did a lot because I was always inspired. Like I grew up with, Jim Henson stuff. So the Dark Crystal, that whole series, and if I remember correctly, I think
Okay.
the original story of that, I believe, it's been a long time since I've watched it. I think Dark Crystal, like they have to travel and put a piece back in the stone, right? That's the end of the movie, right? Right?
Yep, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I did something similar. We had my longest, the best and longest home game I ever ran as a younger DM, as a teenager, involved time travel, and the idea was that to defeat this evil wizard, he had shoved his soul into a crystal on a staff, which got broken into a bunch of different pieces, scattered across different timelines. So the recurring villain was different versions of him at different points in time. So different names, different kind of builds just showing up all over the timeline. But they had to reassemble the crystal. When they reassembled all the parts, then they could pull his soul out of there and defeat him once and for all. So I've done that. I've done that kind of stuff. But I like the using them for kind of passive effects. I like that idea. I hadn't thought of that. So either crafting them into items, which I'm just getting into. And sidebar, we happen to have a thing called Luzor's Alchemist Cookbook, where we give you recipes to build your own items. Just a Dungeon Studios plug. We're going to work that in there sideways. It's a cool idea, and if you want to if you want to get into a crafting system that's unique, you can pick up the cookbook and give you some inspiration. This crystal thing is a good idea for doing that. I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't exactly thought about that, but I like it. But having minor kind of passive effects, if your crystal says it's a healing crystal,
I keep thinking of the crystals in the eyes in Tomb of Horrors in the Demi-Lich.
Azarac.
Yeah, keep thinking of the crystals in his eyes. But using crystals too, I thought would be kind of a neat thing to like have like a wizard who just changed all the components into like minerals and stones and stuff, and they do rituals with them. Would be kind of a neat kind of way to do a wizard, I think too.
Yeah.
I always talk about doing a wizard like with a different track than just having spell books.
That'd be great. I would love to see something along the lines of like a chromatic school, a chromatic specialization for wizards. Because the old chromatic orb, that was the thing in second edition, at least, where it got more powerful the higher level you got, but you needed a better gem. Mm-hmm. And it ate the gem whenever you threw it. And then you had higher level versions of the chromatic spells, chromatic ray and the prismatic.
Oh, that's
wall.
right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Prismatic wall. Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, that could be.
That's
a lot of fun putting an entire series of spells together that specifically go like that. Like we have Disruption Bolt, which was kind of influenced by the old Chromatic Orb, but that one is a Forever DM spell we came up with that actually rolls randomly on the chart, kind of like Chaos Bolt.
Okay,
but then strips the resistances off of a monster so that you can actually get to them.
Cool. That's so cool.
Yeah,
gemstones are great.
I'm hearing from the producer we're having some weird stream quality issues. I apologize to anybody for listening. Or I don't apologize to you for listening. Thank you for listening. Wow.
No. I actually, I noticed that your signal started breaking up when you were talking about the government.
I told you it happens.
That's when it started.
Every time.
That's when it started.
You need to check the books around you, see if you got any of those tags in the back. Like
that's what it is. No. So what I was trying to activate them. What I was trying to do was cleverly segue into a sub reminder and say thank you for listening. I apologize if the quality is getting a bit wonky. I don't know why it's happening. All the usual problems I run into are not present that I'm seeing, so I don't know where the issue is. I'll try to sort that out. It's probably because I was talking about the government, though. But remember to like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Check us out on your favorite podcast platform. Watch our Facebook live streams. We will repost this video again tomorrow for our usual Monday people. We forgot to do that last week. It's been busy, and I'm a terrible person, so I apologize for that. We'll get our shit together, I promise. But you can check out our website, dungeonstudios.co. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Corin, about was that buy me a cup of coffee thing. I don't know about that, but it sounds like a great idea. Like that people can just throw you a
Yep.
couple bucks here and there. What a great idea. So we'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
Buy Me a Coffee is a great site. It was the first support site that I ever set up, and it's great because they have the ability for you to come in as a regular subscriber, and they have subscription tiers just like lots of other sites do. But they also have the opportunity to just buy me a coffee. Just I like something that you did, throw you a couple of bucks, and they let you customize it. So we actually instead of buying a coffee, we buy bags of dice because we know how much we all love
Oh,
the clicky clacky
can
math
feed-
rocks.
Right,
they
right.
can
That's
feed
great.
they can feed your dice addiction.
Yes,
Oh, that's dangerous.
absolutely.
That's super dangerous. Who
Well,
let that madness happen?
well, I mean, that's one of those things that you have to feed because there are so many times where the players show up and they're like, "Oh, I forgot my dice," and you just slam the giant
The
bin
jug
on the
down?
table.
Yep. Did
You
I'm
get
trying to
yours
think?
out
Did
of
I
there.
tell? I've told the story before. I don't know if I did it on the podcast yet, or if I did it just in our Discord. Let's check our Dungeon Studios Discord out as well. You can join us in the madness. You can chat with all of us. I'm always happy to get messages. We're always happy to get topics and things from you guys for the show. You can actually directly interact with us. But I've told a story about being a competitive gamer and having broken people over the years where they quit playing certain games because of me. Have you guys ever heard, did I tell on the stream, have I told in the podcast the story about BattleTech and the Thompson Gunner?
I don't think the
Have I done
Thompson
this
Gunner.
one? Okay.
I've heard you
I think
mention
we've had a
BattleTech.
BattleTech
Yeah, I
story.
don't.
I can't
Okay.
confirm or deny.
All right. Well, I will. Well, I'll spoil it here, and then we're going to move into our main topic because I'm looking forward to hearing about your show. But I'm a math nerd and a competitive gamer, so I found BattleTech. We loved it. We played all the time, and I was at my friend's house, and we had the challenge was thrown down. Two of our friends were like, "We played forever. We'll wreck you guys." I'm like, "Okay, we're going to build our own mechs." Yeah, you can build whatever you want to build. You can't beat us. We're like, okay, cool. We'll see you guys tomorrow at noon. So I'm sitting up with my friend Sean, and we're like going through the book, and I'm like, all right, I gotta find it. I gotta find the secret.
Is this
How are we
the
gonna do
one
this?
where you make all the ones without the something?
Yeah,
Like,
I'm getting to that. Yeah, yeah.
oh,
So
you did tell this story.
as I'm going
then.
through,
just saying.
as
Okay.
as I'm going through, I look down at the lowliest of low things on there. It's the machine gun. It does 2 damage. It costs no money. You can fire it 10 times a game, which most games don't last 10 rounds, and it generates no heat. So I go, well, most of your mech's available space is taken up with things like armor. Who needs that? And heat sinks, so that you can fire the big lasers and all the flashy, cool things you think about when you think about like BattleTech, or for those of you that are familiar with the anime, I think Macross, right?
Yep, Macross or Robotech.
Macross or Robotech, yeah, the Veritech
Mhm.
Veritech VF1J.
Yep.
So, the big flashy things, right? And I go, I go, well, hang on a second. I could put like 50 machine guns on a mech, build up no heat. I just need an engine, a shell, and machine guns. And I'm like, I can run like super fast. Okay. So we do all the math, and I go, we got it, right? So we fast forward the next day, and they're like, oh, I put out my 100-ton this, my Atlas this, with long-range missiles and laser cannons and Gauss rifles. And I'm like, that's cool. I have 5 Thompson gunners. They're like, what's that mech? And I'm like, it's got machine guns. Like, they're all laughing. They're like, that's ridiculous. What else does it do? I'm like, no, it's just got machine guns. That's all it's got. Well, you trying to throw the game? I'm like, well, we'll see how it goes. So turn 1, round 1, like I win the initiative. I'm like, all right, I run my Thompson gunner like straight past your mech, right around to the back arc. Nothing you can do about it because I move like 10. It's way faster than I expected. And I'm in your rear arc. I'm gonna fire all of my weapons. Like, oh, you're gonna overheat? I go, no, I don't generate any heat. What are you firing? 50 machine guns? Huh? And I pull out the bucket of dice, and I'm like, dump. I'm like, all right, the first 20, I need 7s to hit. I got 12 hits. Put those to the side. Another 40 sets of dice. Get up to like I hit 37 times, so that's 74 points of damage, but it's all in your back arc, so now I got to roll to see what armor I hit. I'll roll for crits. I get like 15 crits. I hit the core. Your mech blows up. 100 tons off the board. And the one guy looks at me, he goes, well, fucking never playing this game again, and just put down the mech sheet and left. Just round one, turn one time. I had 4 more of these, by the way. One top. He's like, fuck it, walked out. Never played a game of BattleTech again. He would never play again.
Wow.
And then I'm gonna
I apologize. I apologize to anybody that's listening to all our episodes and have already heard that story a couple times from Merwin. So he must be getting old.
I think I don't think.
Yeah, you told that one already.
Okay,
But
whatever.
I'll keep you back in reality. But
Whatever.
you haven't heard it, Corwin. So
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I enjoyed it. Baited and outplayed is what we call that.
Yeah, a new wrinkle. Now here's the thing: there's a new wrinkle. Since we're getting old, my friend Jamie, who's one of our play testers, thank you very much, by the way. So you met him, Doc, has begun to tell me that stories didn't happen the way I remember them.
Okay.
And that rules weren't what they were. Like, we had a long-standing argument about the vampire card game. And then he goes, I told the Thompson Gunner story, and he goes, yeah, that's not illegal, Mac. You couldn't do that. I'm like, dude, I know it was. I know that wouldn't have worked. That's not how the rules work. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. So, all right. Well, I apologize. I talk a lot. I got into my story, but really we're moving into our main topic, Corin, which is hearing more about your story, because I got a ton of questions about your product. So why don't you go ahead, shamelessly plug yourself, buddy. What do you produce? When do you produce it? And then we're going to get into the whys and hows.
So what we produce, we have 2 main things that we do. The first thing is that we are effectively a gaming community. That's what we've kind of built ourselves as, a place for everybody to come in and see the positive side of Dungeons and Dragons, where Rule 0 is always in effect. Your biggest focus as a player or a DM should be that yourself and everyone else at the table should always be able to have fun, and that you shouldn't be trying to close that out.
This is your Discord, the Forever DM Fest Hall, right?
Yep. And that is available right now to supporters. We are planning on eventually launching it as a full site for everybody. We've already got 3 DMs that are on. One of them is me. I run, like I said, 4 or 5 games a week. They run several of their own. We've got a guy who's about to start running Tomb of Annihilation. We have Rapana Thuk. And the other thing that we do, obviously, which is the big one that gets a lot of attention, is the best available. So we do the Forever DM Adventures on YouTube. That's the name of our channel. And you can go there to see the episodes of the best available as they're coming out. Like I said, we've got 2 years of backlogged recorded sessions and are continuing all the way through the end of Undermountain.
Wait, I'm going to stop you right there.
Go for it.
People that don't, you talk about it like, what is Forever Adventures, and what is it? Like, what am I going to YouTube to see? Tell someone that's never seen it.
So you're going to see our edited live plays. We have fantastic artists, which is Doodle Poodle, as well as Nulla Fontaine. They do amazing artwork. Originally, a lot of the editing was a hack job done by yours truly. I am definitely more of an IT guy than a video editor, but I did my best to patch it together. And eventually, we gathered the attention of an editor who saw my stuff and said, "You're doing a really good job. I could do it better." And now our stuff looks amazing. So you're going to see our live plays. You're going to see artwork. You're going to hear the people playing through the game, experience it as they go. And it's not going to be the same kind of... you get 2 sides normally when you're seeing a live play. You either get the extremely verbose, I'm going to sit here for 45 minutes and listen to everybody take a coffee break, and I have no idea when they're going to come back to the table because they haven't edited any of the dead space out. Or you have the extremely short form, like D&D meme videos, where they take the 15 seconds to 2 minutes of the game that was a really cool moment, but you don't see any of the rest of it. You don't see any of the context. You don't get involved with the characters. Right. We're taking it and turning it into a fully edited production piece. We've got artists, we've got animators, we've got editors, we've got me talking until I'm blue in the face and then continuing to talk.
So you and Merwin can hang out.
Oh, yes.
Like to talk, so it's good. It's good.
So you'll get the best experience that we can give you of a very positive table where our dedication is to the adventure. And you get to see, we start out with 4 people who have one D&D session between all of them. And that is one person has played one time. The other 3 have never played.
Okay.
Now we're on year 2. We've got 6 players. We've had character losses. We've had character gains. We've had extremely intense moments. Every individual character gets a custom arc to explore their background and to keep them grounded in the story. We've customized a lot about Waterdeep and expanded it so that we have this this festival where they push back against the forces of Undermountain that are rising up toward the surface. And the hunt for, as a wise man once said, the search for more money.
Now, are you closed? You said you have a group. Are more people allowed to come into this group?
So
as patrons, how does that work?
So joining into the Discord right now is, like I said, for patrons only. But we have several different games that run, and as seats open up, we open them up to any members of the Discord, and even invite other people in. So that, what's that?
Is the sound okay, Merwin? I got a sound wash going on.
Really?
Yeah, go ahead there, Corin.
Sounds
Okay.
good to me. Producer
All right.
Josh has not yelled at me that we suck lately, so I think we're okay.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry, I thought I heard something weird happen.
Yep. So where was I? There's so much.
Session, Discord,
yeah,
running games, slots.
There are lots of games available. As seats open up, we open up invites. There's actually one game called the Randomizer Crew, where I have done something absolutely insane and said I will play for as many people as show up at the table. So we have.
I have that on my list.
We have stressed roll 20. Yeah, we have stressed roll 20 to the maximum. We have not managed to break it yet, but we've tried.
How many players? How many players?
We've capped out. We've capped out at 17 people, 1 DM and 16 players at the table.
Okay.
And still managed to get through good turns. It's a more action-based and strategy-based game. A little less of the verbose role-playing, a little more let's kill some monsters and make some cashy money. Set things on fire, save the world. Sounds like a good time.
No,
and at the end of every adventure, the characters gain a level. And if you're behind in level when you join in as level 1 and the group's level 9 or 10. At the end of every session, your character gains level to try and help you catch up. So you actually catch up fairly fast, but they still have to kind of shield you a little bit and make sure you don't get annihilated.
If you're the newbie.
Protect
we just had somebody jump in who is going to be having their first session on Monday. It's a really great guy, a cool voice actor who joined as a Patreon recently. And he's coming in at level 1. They are about to jump into a fight against 2 adult blue dragons. So we'll see whether Revivify or Raise Dead comes into play.
I was gonna say, and don't stand in the line with your party. Whatever you do, don't stand in a straight line.
So we open up seats to everybody who's there. There are a couple of paid games that get run. The best available is a paid game, and so is the Order of the Cobalt Flame, which is their sister party. We're running 2 of the Undermountain games at the same time, and they're co-opetition parties that are each trying to reach places first in the dungeon.
Nice.
So that has been
that's great.
entertaining.
That's a lot of fun.
I like that co-opetition. I like that term.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they're both parties trying to stop the forces of Undermountain, but at the same time, there's only a limited amount of treasure.
Right.
Fair enough.
So it's great. Eventually, we will be turning all of these games into at least some episodes, if not doing a full series on each of them. Like I said, we've got a lot of recorded content. And you can get in on the fun by joining in. You can join Randomizer tomorrow if you pop in. I will slap a character sheet down for you, and you can join that as any viewer. You're welcome to come on over. And other games, as they start up, will have seats. Our Tomb of Annihilation game that is going to be starting soon has 2 players out of 6. And with not that many players, you know how a Tomb of Annihilation runs.
Yeah,
With
I
many
bet.
players, we know how it runs.
Yeah.
Not well for anybody.
No. Lots of jungle, lots of torn up character sheets.
All right. Well, so let me ask you this question then. So, you got a lot going on, and I want to get into some of the details. But
Definitely.
lest I forget to ask, when it comes to the games, your DM style. We were talking about the various generations of DMs. Apparently, I'm an '80s DM. So when it comes to the characters, is it, strive to keep them alive or fuck them, let them die? What's your thoughts?
So I have played with a lot of different kinds of parties. I have played with the people who absolutely could not stand to lose their characters, and I have played with the people who want to absolutely feel like they could die at any moment if things go wrong. And I have to walk down the middle because I want to strive to keep everybody able to play. And my favorite is let them die. If things are going to go wrong, they're going to go wrong. And that's part of the story. The risk is the reward, which is why when I got the option to play, I chose the meat grinder dungeon.
Right. Yeah.
But if I have a group of people who just want to experience the joy of seeing their characters become great heroes and want to go on these adventures, there will be peril, there will be terror, and I scare people. Anybody who has seen the gibbering mouther from the first few episodes of The Best Available will know that's a scary fight for a level 1 group of 4 people.
Yeah.
But
my favorite was the not quite so
you
dead
can get
dragon. Sorry,
yes.
I didn't cut you off. That was my favorite.
Oh no, that was a great moment.
Yeah.
It is completely motionless until you move up to it.
I love it. Like you were just about to leave and just laugh. I love that stuff.
The maniacal laughter is the best. That is why they drew me with the giant horns and the red skin and
I was gonna ask where that characterization came from. So, all right, well, I got a list of questions. I know Doc does things that I'm curious about. So let me throw this one out there before I forget about it.
Yeah, shoot.
So the big thing I noticed, and you already kind of mentioned this briefly, but I wanted to get some of your thought process, is that your formatting is different than everybody else's. Like you said, it's not like my junk or other better quality things where it's a live play with the cameras and the faces of the people in the game, and you get the whole session, for better or for worse. But it's also not a 3-minute clip of the highlights. You go through, and I cheated a little bit. I asked your artist about the sessions and whatnot ahead of time because I was curious. I couldn't wait. But so you run like a 6-hour game, and then you go through and you cut that up into these episodes. So why do it that way when there, like you said, though, there's probably more than more than a few like good moments at the table. Obviously, I'm sure you probably have some ups and downs in your combats that can be really interesting. But you pick and choose and you narrate most of combat instead of showing any of it. So what was the driving factor in that choice, though? Just to be different? Do you not like the other streams that have the the fuller kind of play? Well, talk me through that because I'm curious about why you made that choice as your aesthetic. Because I like it, I definitely like it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It was definitely it was hard to find our own niche, and we wanted to make a good design decision. At the end of the day, when I was initially starting as the editor, I wanted to try and say, well, we're not a group of voice actors. We're not Critical Role. We're not, all a bunch of trained people who are here and putting on a show. We are playing Dungeons and Dragons. And that's not to say that, Critical Role isn't great. And they do a lot of good stuff, and a lot of people really like them. And I like them too. But this is more of we're just people playing D&D. We didn't bring the special skill set to the table to push that out there. And we're just people who love the game. And I wanted to let that side of Dungeons and Dragons get a little more shine. And with the speed at which we've managed to pick up subscribers, I think that we were onto something, because that lets people connect directly with you as the player, and then also get invested in your character. The narrating of the combats was a hard one for me, because that's my favorite part of D&D. I'm a tactical gamer. I like strategy. I love BattleTech. I love Warhammer 40K and Warhammer Fantasy. I love all that stuff. And narrating that, though, allowed us to put the more epic spin on it, still get across what happened in the best key peak moments, and also not bog someone down who wouldn't want to watch through the nitty gritty of seeing the individual dice rolls and watching how they portion out. Now, we do plan on actually releasing a very minorly edited version, mostly taking out the things that are definitely not safe to put on YouTube, and of a full live play. So you will actually be able to watch that. And that's a supporter benefit. So
nice. That's a
if
good
you're
plan.
interested in that, hey, feel free.
So,
Once we finish,
if you like us enough.
Yep.
Nice.
We're going to be cutting down each episode into each session into the individual episodes, like we have for 1 through 4, and then once we move on to the next arc, the full gameplay version without all the crazy edits and stuff to condense it will be available for people to watch all the way through. And as we go further down the line, more of that content will become available. So if you want to watch through it, we'll take out the dead space, because nobody wants to hear for 10 minutes while I choke on an ice cube. Because that never happens.
Never, of course.
But other than that, you'll get to hear everything come across. You'll get to hear everything from the wacky laughter that occasionally comes out of one of our unfortunate players, all the way down to the, moderately crass jokes that people make around the gaming table when it's a group of friends just having fun. And that's going to be something that we will do. But the best foot forward, I think, that everybody could watch and enjoy was going to be a deeply, not a deeply edited or deep cuts, but a smoother story version of the full episode and adventure going out. Because turning something from the nuts and bolts of the gaming table into a movie screen or a TV screen requires sacrifices, and I think we've all seen sometimes they make the wrong sacrifices.
Yeah, they
a lot of indie movies.
Oh boy, can't wait!
Fingers crossed for
the next one to come out. I can't wait.
Here's hoping. But I think that the right cuts in the right place make all the difference and can help keep a steady flow. I've seen a lot of people who like to just listen and hear a session go on, and they come into ours, and I've actually converted people from just listeners into viewers. One of our guys actually commented that this was the first time they took their phone out of their pocket to watch D&D. Because they would just, put on a couple of earbuds, listen to it while they were doing their workday, and then at one point they pulled their phone out of their pocket, saw the artwork and the flashy edit and the destruction of one of the monsters, and went, "Oh, I need to watch this." So, best of both worlds.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Yeah, I think that and I come from my campaign, Merwin. I always do like a mixed media piece for each adventure, and I feel like your style, like, it really opens the mind's eye. To explore what's happening in the scene. So I love it. I personally love it myself.
Thank you so much.
So,
that's a huge compliment coming from both of you that you actually like what we do. Like, I never knew that anybody would like it. I was just gonna do it anyway and just hope that somebody would be like, that's all right.
Hey, you gotta throw it out there. That's same thing with this. Like, I've had the joke with people for a while talking about games, and I'm like, I don't necessarily think that I'm interesting enough running a game that people are going to want to watch. And I've heard some feedback from Doc and people that I don't suck, so I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm like, I don't know, and I did it, and I'm like, people enjoyed it, great. But I like the point you made about you're able to control the content to focus on like the character stories and whatnot. Which your session 0 game was great. Those are all great backstories you went through. That I loved all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, you have that control over what you put in there, and you can really focus on those moments and make them the centerpiece. It's one of my I have a lot of critiques about Critical Role, especially lately, but one of my things about them is, first of all, I watched every minute of campaign 1 and 2 except for one episode in season 1 where they went shopping.
Yeah,
like,
there was the shopping episode.
Nope, I don't care.
I knew it.
I don't care what happens. Like I go, the most dramatic moment in the whole series could happen right here, and I'm never gonna hear it. It's just not gonna happen. But no, you can focus on your character stuff. I like that's a great idea, and I look forward to getting you into a playtest game because I am a competitive gamer and I love that I love that chess match type thing. So
it's so much fun.
The
push and pull.
Here's what I think I'm gonna do. I got a plan for our next set of stuff. I'm gonna get people to build the combats. Try to build those as they flesh out the modules, and then have people like yourself that, hey, look, I got a fight we got to test. I need a 5th level character. Show up Tuesday. We're gonna brawl it out. Doc already started this with the monster play testing. Monster fights.
Nice.
I think it's a great way to get people like you that are tactically minded, that like that nitty gritty part of the game, and let's really put these fights through. I also have a YouTube channel video idea. You and I should talk offline about it. I want to see what you think, because I've been looking for somebody who can help me make it happen, because I'm lazy and don't do anything. So I need people that are productive to make something.
Wait, he doesn't want to work with you now if you're going to admit that out loud.
No. Wait till I pitch the idea. The idea.
Okay.
Oh, I understand very well being an idea guy. Like it's one of those you gotta get it out there, because sometimes you strike gold with something.
Oh, 100%. So Doc, I don't want to talk the entire time because me and Corin do that. Do you got a question? Hit. You got the next one.
All right, Corin, I have a question about Planescape. You said you're a Planescape guy.
Yes.
So I want to ask, the skull. Do you know of the Magic Skull? The CD that was released?
The CD?
Yes, a compact disc for Planescape.
Like no one knows what they are.
Are you talking about the Planescape game? Because you say Skull and you say Planescape, and all I can think of is Mort from actual Planescape Torment. I'm like,
okay. No, they actually released a compact disc, a CD, that was the voice of this magic skull. And the skull would take you to different locations in Planescape. Huh. And I have this, like, it's one of the few things that I have kept in my collection of things that I was allowed to keep. And I thought you would know of this.
I wonder if it's actually the same person who did the stuff for Mort in the game. That would be pretty awesome, because that was the magic skull that accompanied you in Planescape Torment, that accompanied the Nameless One.
Okay.
You played Torment, right?
No.
Oh man, that's the quintessential Planescape game. It's Baldur's Gate, except in Planescape.
Yep.
And Mort is your bro. He is a skull that floats around with you, and he has an amazing story. Now I gotta find this.
Yeah, now I'm searching something instead of being on my podcast. I didn't know you would know about this.
Well, while you dig that up, here's my other question. So you referenced a couple times, people in your crew. So I'm curious, with Dungeons and Doodles. Is that right?
Yep.
John Boy.
Dungeons and Doodles.
Yeah. So
or Doodle Poodle.
Doodle Poodle. There you go. It's late. I'm getting yelled at that we probably should go to break soon because we talk too much. We'll get to that in a minute. And I hope by the way, I hope the animation works. I got it uploaded. Should be okay. We'll find out. But
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. That was the other thing I want to know is about your cast. Obviously, you said some of the games you've met people, bring them into your community, but I want that origin story is how you got hooked up with him and the cast of Best Available, how you got all those people into it, and how that was those are the people that you chose for the game. So give me that.
That's an interesting one. So Doodle Poodle, or John Boy, as we like to call him, is a longtime friend of mine. I actually met him through a friend of mine who was a game developer. So I do a lot of writing, creative writing. I do storyboarding I've done it for a couple of games that, unfortunately, most indie games never get off the ground. Neither did ours.
We also need to talk about that too.
Storyboarding was a lot of fun. And I love doing it. I've helped out a couple of indie game developers with doing storyboarding, written everything for them, from story arcs all the way down to character dialogue that they were having a problem chewing through, just kind of offering up my services to help a project, get off the ground. And he was also a fan of that same person's game. We met, started talking, and just hit it off. And then he mentioned that he was into milsim games. I also like milsim games. So we started playing Arma together. And we got into a whole squad. And then we played with that squad for years. We became really good friends. I met his wife. Eventually I went up and actually visited them up in Canada. They will probably never forgive me for calling it Kanakistan. But I it's just my sense of humor. They've gotten used to it over time.
That's great.
But
That's great.
We've had a great time meeting. The other person who started out with us, who plays Natalia, the black-haired woman fighter across from Angela, was Wolf, who was the leader for our army unit. And he was the only person who had ever played a session of D&D in his life. So John Boy brought his wife, Wolf brought his wife, and I said, well, hey, let's record our session because I think that would be fun. I did it on a whim. And I am extremely glad I did, because now here we are. I cobbled it together out of a bunch of people that just seemed like they were really excited about the game. I did something special for their backgrounds. I have an old book, which is probably, I think it was published in 1972, 1973. So my physical copy was falling apart. It's called Heroes of Legend. And it was a non-game system background generator. The thing was falling apart by the time I got a hold of it in the early 2010s,
right?
But it was a gorgeous system, and we used that to roll up massively detailed backgrounds for all of them, and they were so into it during our session 0 character creation that they were hooked, and I knew this was going to be a good game, and sure enough, it turned out to be a really good game.
Oh, nice. I was curious. Like I said, I was curious how all that came about.
Yeah,
I'm like, all right, like it's interesting.
milsim games and friends' wives.
And so apologies to John Boy, because I talked his ear off the other night. We're discussing a project, and I'm like, like we'd love to have on the show. And he's like, oh, I talk people. Well, Corin really does the talking. I'm like, oh, I know, we're gonna get him. We'll get you too. And I'm like, I felt bad because I could just feel I could feel the introvert just rolling off of him, and I'm like,
yes,
no big deal, buddy, we're good. I had a blast talking to him and his wife. Please, I had a great time. So
they're some of the best people I've ever met. They are so chill and so much fun.
I do need to ask you what the trick is to get the wives involved. I got a couple of people in my home game that I'm trying to get their significant other to play. This way they don't keep them from showing up to the sessions. Ulterior motive. But all right, it's 10:48. I say we got 2 minutes for a doc question. And then we're going to get to the break, which runs about 15, so we'll be back at 11:05 Eastern time. So, Doc, 2 minutes, fire it up. What do you got?
Oh, wait, I did forward you. It's from edition 2. It was the primer.
Yep, Player's Primer to the Outlands.
Yes, you've never heard that CD?
I have never heard the CD. I have seen the primer, the actual physical book, but I have never heard the CD. I really want to.
I might have to get it to you. I have it. I have a copy of it, so I may have to get you a copy of it.
I would absolutely love that.
I didn't say, can I bootleg on? They shut us down. I'm sorry.
It's such old content. I'm sure they wouldn't. Oh, and no yield.
Oh yeah, that's coming in the second half. We're gonna get into that. So I assume you had a chance to hear my rant about them last time. So
No, I wanted to mention. I noticed that listening to your games, you had an incident where one of the players had come back from dead, like tar. They were like a tar zombie or something.
Yeah, the tar oozes.
The tar ooze. They came back. They didn't have their memory, and you hadn't really revealed it at first. You were just talking about him back, and then you were like, and I love the way you did this. You were like, oh yeah, and you don't really remember anything, blah 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 blah, and you just set it off the side, and then all your players had immediate buy-in. There was no quips, qualms. You use something to it.
Questions, queries,
I
quandaries, posers.
Yeah, I say, and then I add to that quips and quipes on the end. But I lost my train of thought. So, how do you foster that group of players? Because I came in later and complimented them all to not like metagame. They went so right down the line. We're in character, and he's forgotten. And then there was two that have a relationship. And then the guy that forgot his memory was like, oh, well, she's still hot, even though I don't know how to have a relationship with her. And he was playing it up, and everyone was so good. How do you foster that with a group that huge?
So one of the great things to do is you have to be very careful in the information that you give to your players, especially if you're looking for a long, like a slow burn kind of story. They have a particular relic that when you lose attunement to it, can cause memory loss. And some of you have probably played in that module. I don't know if I should drop the name of it.
You don't have to if you don't want to spoil. You don't have to spoil if you don't want.
It's a recent release, and it's good. You should do it. But when you lose attunement to it, you have to make a saving throw. And if you fail, you lose all of your memories about any information you've gained using this particular relic. I only tell the person who has actually had that happen. I keep that effect of the artifact secret so that no one knows what they're getting into when they attune to it. And just the drop, the kind of like mic drop moment where you just go, oh, and by the way, you don't remember any of that.
Right. That was it. It was
that it's the shock factor at the table. You kind of just like wait for the conversation to just be going normally, and then you tell them something that absolutely would have been immensely important to know 10 minutes ago.
Right.
And because then everybody suddenly has to stop and really consider the ramifications of what's going on. And Hadari has to consider, how am I going to play my character now? I have a relationship with this person. Now I don't remember them. And everybody else has to go, well, what does he not remember about all of us? When did he attune to it? And so they have to go chewing through their memories to figure out where exactly in time he was. And it gets them invested in the moment. So just throw something in there that they are not expecting. And if you have fostered the mentality of cooperation amongst them, they will spend the time to figure out how to get past it.
That's my question.
Deal with it.
Where did you grow that cooperation from that group? I mean,
it has just been a combination of fostering positivity at the table, letting everybody know that there were clear lines of what is acceptable and what isn't, and everybody has their moments where they cross over them. And you have to go, okay, no, step back. The line's there. And then there are moments where you have to go, okay, come forward and be involved and be welcome and know that this is a place for you to play freely. And once you get to the point where everybody knows where they stand, people will fall in together and create that kind of community environment that you see when they're suddenly faced with a challenge out of nowhere. And their first thought is, now we have a challenge. Let's fix the problem.
Right. And I guess too, I came in with a group that's already been established for a while. So I haven't heard, you're a little bit off there. Come back with me. I haven't heard any of those, but no, they were outstanding. it was very refreshing, and they played it so well. It was really entertaining to listen to too. I have to say, it was great.
Oh yeah, there's a great combination of metagaming and not metagaming that can actually be both positive and negative for your table, and you just have to foster the positive metagaming. Whereas, like, I as a person know that there would be a trap there. My character is intelligent enough and is experienced enough to go, well, maybe I should look for a trap there.
Right, yeah.
You know, it's and then there's the negative one, which is like, well, I'm expecting a trap, so I'm going to go over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
I always liked it. No, I always I got killed in an early game, and everyone thought I was a crazy person because I knew that the monster being described, that's, come help me, was really a Fomorian, and I'm like, well, I'm a bard, I'm a collector of stories. Of course, I'm going to go investigate this horrendous monster asking me. It's what we do. And then I got murdered. So, all right, we're at 10:55. We're going to move into a little bit of story time. Take our break. We should run about 15 minutes. So let's see if I can wrap up the first half of the story in under 4 minutes, get us to 11 exactly, be back at 11:15 p.m. Thank you for listening. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, come back and see us. We live stream, usually on Monday nights, but we've been doing some special streams to get some of our guests in. Next Monday, we are going to be here with
the Black Feather and Gabriel Jensen from Hour of the Raven.
Yeah, looking forward to having that conversation. Doc's super geeked out about it. So I'm looking forward to. Apparently, my voice, my audio has sucked this whole time, and no one told me until now. I guess because I plugged my camera back in. I
said it. No one believes me. I did not have a high enough persuasion check.
All right, I gotcha. Yeah, I plugged. I don't know if I sound better now, but I plugged my camera in when we started. I'd used it for my game because we had a player who played remotely last week. They were in Texas. And apparently it defaulted my Windows setting to using that microphone and lowered the volume, the input, down to like 20%.
That was it. That would be
so
it.
I sounded fine on the sound test. I don't know what you guys are talking about, but I fixed it. Hopefully I sound better. I apologize if my dulcet and soothing tones were not up to par for the first half of the show.
You have 3 minutes now for your story.
I know. I talk a lot. Into the story. So I went to Gen Con twice when I was a teenager. It was one of the most fun things I'd ever done. And I had this weird habit of going and never being able to get into any of the D&D events that I wanted to. And I would usually I would quit playing Magic for a lot of reasons leading up to going to Gen Con, although I did sell cards to pay for my trips. And so I went this one year with my friend, and it was Sunday, which for those of you that go to the convention, Sunday is like it's the end of the convention. People are winding down. People are leaving. So there's usually a lot of the weirder events that are going on Sunday, and I, bombed out of the Magic tournament I had signed up for, and I wasn't going to get into a game. My buddy Jamie was playing. This is how old this was. He was signing up and hanging out with guys to do a play-by-mail war game, right? So I'm like, well, fuck, we're going to be here for like 3 more hours. Like, I got to find something to do. So I'm wandering around. And I see the sign that they're going to have a Monopoly tournament at like 2:00 in the afternoon, right? So I'm like, I go back to Jamie and I go, dude, do you want to do this? My volume sucks. Thank you very much. Does it still suck? I hope it doesn't. I'm maxed all the way out. Anyways, I'm like, you want to do this before we go? He goes, yeah, we'll totally do it. So we go, he finishes the thing. We go, we sign up for it. We show up and there's like 5 or 6 tables and there's only like 6 people there. Like barely enough for just enough for a full game with us. And we're like, well, I guess there's not going to be much of a tournament. Well, do you guys still want to play? And everyone's like, yeah, we'll still play a game. It'll be great, right? So we sit down. It's me and Jamie, and then it's a cast of 3 other people, your typical nerds that you'd expect. Hairy round guy in suspenders, super excited, and then just a random skinny kid. And the 6th person comes to join us, a wonderful, probably late 80s woman, just slowly shuffles over. Is this my seat? Can I hit the head of the table so I can see things better? We're like, yeah, we'll move around, have a seat, and we go, hey, you're not the typical convention goer. What other games do you play, or did you come to Gen Con just to play Monopoly? Oh, my grandson, he loves the games, and I love him, so I go to all the shows with him, and I find things to do, but I was really excited. I like Monopoly. I play a little bit. You guys don't mind if we're competitive, right? And we're like, No, it's Monopoly. You're supposed to be competitive. Oh, wonderful. So we begin to play the game. And we get maybe to the midpoints. People have properties. Nobody has made it. Nobody has really gotten far ahead except for her. And she has one full set. I think she had the greens. And she had just put like houses on them. And the gentleman in suspenders, a very nice fellow, good guy to talk to, had a bad run of luck. He went around the board like 3 times and just kept hitting everyone's stuff, right? And he got in a bad way. He owed, the creditors were coming for money, and he rolls around and he's like, all right, well, if I get a 3, a 4, or a 6, I'm gonna hit her and I'm probably gonna be out of the game. And sure enough, he comes up with a 6. Oh, it lands on the most expensive one. He looks at her. He goes, all right, what's the rent? And she's like, I just put houses down. It's like $500. He's like, I don't have that. I've already mortgaged a bunch of stuff. Hey, you know what? We're all playing for fun. Not enough people came here, so there's no real prize. And I've been having a great time. You guys have all been wonderful. I'll just give you how about I give you one of my properties and we'll call it a day? And she looks at him and she looks up and she goes, one property? And I'll tell you what she said on the other side of the break. Thank you for hanging out with us. I'm going to try not to screw up the intermission here as I started. It runs 13 minutes. So let's give us just an even time. We'll be back, if everything goes well, 11:15 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for listening to the game, brought to you by Dungeon Studios. I hope my volume doesn't suck anymore. And we'll see you guys on the other side. And for us in here, unmute the Discord. We can hang out and chat. Another reason why you should be a subscriber and join our Discord channel. You can hear us in the break on the show. See you guys in 15 minutes.
Hello, viewers of the game and Dungeon Studio viewers as well. I'm the Forever DM, and this is a little taste of the best available. Please enjoy the show. Last left our band of intrepid adventurers, they had managed to find a patron who was willing to sponsor them for the upcoming competition.
I am Zacharias. You are adventurers. I have a task inside of Undermountain. There is a object.
The group needed to make a name for themselves, though, or they would never be accepted, even with a sponsor. Fortunately, Zacharias had an answer for that too. Their first task is to investigate the site of a meteorite impact to see if anything of interest fell and if anyone of interest had yet laid claim to the site. The party, eager to begin their questing career in earnest, wasted no time in traveling to the site of the impact, but what they discovered there nobody could have anticipated. They tangled with some wildlife that seemed unusually sized, but dispatched it with little issue. However, the crater harbored much more than natural inhabitants.
A soft and chortling gurgle comes from the bushes. You see that one of the leaves stretches out, and a small hand takes hold of the grass and dirt and begins to pull itself out of the underbrush.
Fucking goblin!
The creature that emerges from the underbrush is one that any seasoned adventurer would know from a mile away. It is most definitely a goblin. However,
Fucking kill that motherfucker!
However, the creature crawls, and it is when 2 long tendrils slither off of its back and pull it forward that you recognize there is something very wrong. The creature's legs have been fused together, and its arms meld into its torso, twisting at the wrist in order to pull itself inch by inch across the ground. its skull is split vertically from forehead to chin and much more widely across the mouth. And as the cold black eyes of the goblin look up at Bethaniel, you can see a plea for release in them.
Though horrified by the unenviable and inhumane fate of the goblin, the party resolves to put down the poor creature as peacefully as possible. Before they're able to complete this task, however, it's revealed that whatever disturbance had warped this poor soul is not limited to organic material alone, as a line of mutated fence posts rise from the ground and begin to lash out against them. Despite this onslaught, the party prevails and continues to investigate the strange happenings around the site of the meteor.
As your allies search the campsite, you hear a soft whispering in the distance. It's difficult to pick out any specific voice or tone, but there is definitely a babbling. It's coming from the pit. The rope, the yellow, thick, woven hemp that leads down inside, is swaying slightly.
Something's climbing up here. Something's climbing here. Get ready.
Angie was right. Something was climbing. An aberration beyond human comprehension. A pulsing mass of mouths and eyes, with groaning voices screaming in agony for release. Though this was far beyond what any beginning adventurer could reasonably expect to face in an early quest, there was no turning back now. So they steeled themselves and prepared for battle.
So I want to yeet another torch down, hopefully illuminating it long enough for Ara to be able to cast a spell.
The torch falls and hits the creature, illuminating it long enough for Ara to fire off a spell. The sacred pillar will illuminate the creature for a moment, and there is a chorus of male voices wailing in pain as the radiant energy tears through their body. The creature continues to slide up the side of the wall and moves another 20 feet. Its body flowing upwards like a unending tide of flesh. The creature slithers another 10 feet upwards, its body contorting and turning to almost a spheroid shape before a larger mouth extends from it and disgorges a large glob of chemical. It flies upwards to the edge of the pit, cascading past Angie, and then detonating in a blazing flare of light.
Oh god.
Ara, you're able to bring your hand up just enough time to cover your eyes. Unfortunately, Angie staggers back from the edge of the pit, blinded completely and unable to see anything as the creature closes in on her.
Might as well stagger back a little bit further.
For a second, you're not sure what it was that you stepped in, and then you remember the two bodies that were next to the pit. Your foot descends into one of the sacks that were once men, and you slide along the ground for a moment, but thankfully you're able to catch your feet, and you don't pitch down face first into the muck.
Ew!
Natalia, you are close enough that the incoherent babbling and moaning and whimpering and crying has started to seep into your mind. You can hear an otherworldly alien hiss. Natalia grasps at her ears and howls, shrieking.
Driven mad by the voices, she slams her crossbow into Angela.
Roll a
no.
melee attack roll. With advantage, because Angela's blinded. Angela, you feel Natalia nudging you with the crossbow, or grasping a hold of you, but then she smacks it hard against your back. The armor absorbs the blow, but she's screeching something shrill at you about stopping the voices. The creature finally slithers its way over the edge of the pit. Angela, you are able to see again, just long enough for the creature to hunker, gorge, and eject another bile burst in your direction. A blazing blast of light engulfs Natalia and Angela side by side. Natalia's trying to bludgeon you with her crossbow, the creature's closing in on you, and you're blinded again.
With several wailing roars, the gibbering beast's many mouths crash down on Angela. And though its weight pushes down on her like a tide of flesh, and she can hear the cracking of her shield as chunks are torn from it, she forces the creature's bulk back. Again, the whispering voices muddle her thoughts, but shaking her head free, Angela whips her blade forward, carving into the beast with a cry and severing a chunk of it. One of its twisted faces drops free, dissolving along with the grass next to her metal boot. Gritting her teeth, a wounded Natalia feels her mind giving over to the madness, but fights through it. Digging deep, the young woman grasps her long sword with both hands and raises it up high, driving it down through one of the many yawning maws and plunging it deep. The feeling of the blade biting flesh is interrupted by a crunching sound as she strikes something crystalline or metallic inside, shattering the damaged fragment of the meteorite with a final blow. With its core broken, a chorus of voices, both monstrous and humanoid, cry out. Some wail in rage while others sob in relief, but their aria is all too short as the lurching pile of gristle and meat loses cohesion, slowly bubbling out onto the forest floor and dripping over the edge. The monstrosity is finally slain, and the group stands bloodied but unbowed over the pit, having avenged those who sought profit and were instead given horror.
Hey there folks, I'm MC Cheshire, the editor of this fine Dungeons & Dragons web series. What you just watched was a last time on Dragon Ball Z-esque summarization of episodes 1, 2, and 3 of The Best Available. As of recording, we have also published episode 4, which is the final episode of our first true adventure. So if you like what you see, feel free to head over onto our channel, start from episode 1, or just go straight to episode 4, because you've got most of the information that you need to understand what happens from there. Episode 5 is already mid-production, so please look forward to that. As well as making these episodes, I also have a habit of making fun little memes and short videos out of the videos as I edit them. It's just something I do, but I think it's enjoyable, so be sure to check those out too. Thanks for your time.
This is Z.
Yes. Hello, kind sir. We've been notified of a large nest of rodents terrorizing your establishment.
Pardon?
It's very unfortunate. I do apologize. One of our adventuring parties can be dispatched from the central office in Storm Cove and arrive at your location within a fortnight to destroy the aforementioned foes.
I think I'm a little lost here.
Can you hear me? What's your name?
Z.
Z, thank you. So for this feat, our adventuring party will require about 6 pints of your finest ale, 4 gold pieces, and an evening with your nimblest wench.
Well, the only wench here at the moment would be me, even though I don't swing around that gender role. However, I do have plenty of ales for you and your friends.
Okay, that's a great start, but the wench is non-negotiable, unfortunately.
I could go and put on a dress for you. That is about it.
I mean, I won't say no. Now, moving on, let's talk about your adventuring party selection. Are you more in for a brawny gentleman, such as a barbarian, or are you more roguish?
I'm a bit more roguish myself.
Okay, that's a good start. So, let's say we could get you a nice rogue. How large is the rodent?
It is about, let's say, 3 leather boots tall.
That's very specific, but I like it, Z. Let's say 3 leather boots tall. Now, I would say, unfortunately, you would have to apply for our advanced adventuring party, with 2 additional members, one being up to, depending on whether or not you have the gold, an additional warlock who's made a pact with Satan.
So Dave was messaging.
Hello, Z.
That's why I was like, okay, but can you
Welcome back, everybody. We are back from our break. Hopefully my volume doesn't suck anymore. It's probably, if anything, going to be too loud now. But this is the game brought to you by Dungeon Studios. We're on the second half of our break, chatting with the forever DM, Corwin, the mastermind behind the best available and numerous web shows. And we have a story to finish, so thank you for sticking with us. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. We're happy to have you back through the break. Let me resume the Devil of Monopoly. So here I am, this poor guy in suspenders, a very nice fellow, finds himself running afoul of this old woman who happens to have a Monopoly on the board. He looks at her and goes, well, we're all playing for fun. There's no prizes or anything, so I'll just give you one of my properties and let's keep playing because, I got a couple hours to kill still. And she looks up and she goes, one of your properties? Dear, why would I take one when you owe me them all? And we're like, holy shit, she's out for blood. And he's like, really? Like, I just want to keep playing. She goes, well, you shouldn't have gone bankrupt then. And collects all of his things, right? Like a dragon in her hoard. And then she goes, oh, it's my turn. Look, I need a 13 to find myself landing on Boardwalk, and I already have Park Place. She picks the dice up, rolls them, a 6, and a fucking 7-sided pentagram. She gets 13 on 2d6 somehow. Am I way too loud? We'll scale it back a minute. Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little bit.
So, 7-sided pentagram, 13 on 2d6, gets Monopoly, or gets Boardwalk, has Monopoly, and begins to systematically crush everyone. There was a brief moment of hope. A brief moment where she found herself on one row of the board that we had conspired to beat her because she was Satan, by giving one guy all of our shit at the end of the game just to defeat her. And she goes, oh, it's the final turn. If I roll anything but a 1, I end up on your properties. Shake, 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 rolls. It's a blank fucking die and a skull. She goes, I rolled a 1. I guess I get free parking. You lose. And just sucks in everyone's stuff, gets up, and just walks away. She's like, I love Monopoly. And just off she goes. Fucking wrecked an entire table of people mercilessly. And that was my experience with the Devil of Monopoly.
There's a reason it destroys family gatherings every year.
Yes. Yes. I don't know whose souls she bartered to get 13s and 1s on her dice, but damn it, she did it. So that's one of my favorite convention stories. If you don't go to conventions, you should. It's a good time. So, past story, back from our break. Thank you for listening to us. I hope I'm not too loud. Josh. I think I blew up poor Doc's eardrum, I think, at that one point. But let's get back into this. I got a couple of things that I wanted to go over about your channel and some of your content and the live streams and the things you chose. So let me get right into it, and then we're going to move on to your question for us. We talked offline about some things you were curious about that I had mentioned involving psychological torment of your players. One of my favorite topics. Yes. But Corwin, I wanted to ask you, along the lines of what content you pick to run and the things that you're doing in homebrewing, are you ever going to come out with a series that's 100% a homebrew? Obviously, with the OGL nonsense, creating your own stuff might be the way to go. Might be the way to go going forward. Can't talk today, and you seem like a super creative guy. You got a lot of good content out there. Do you have a homebrew that you're waiting to bring to the world?
So having played for as long as I have and being into creative writing, I have lots and lots of different homebrew worlds. I have everything from worlds that have suffered an rather terrifying magical apocalypse, and now everyone is inside of single large walled cities trying to survive what is left outside, down to places that have never been explored and actually have a dice system integral to the game to find out what's around every corner, kind of giving you that same what is it called, light in the darkness kind of feel. I think was what you had mentioned previously, where the players get to be the ones to go out into the world and discover what's out there at all, no one having knowledge of it. We're working on our own system already. We were previously just messing around with it. A working title is Boss Rush, and it's a project that Chesh has been working on pretty heavily. It's just something that we were making for fun, and if it ends up being a thing, hey, that'd be great. If it doesn't, then that's fine too. But when it comes to the OGL and going forward, I know we'll get into that more detailed later on. My stance has been the same stance that I have had in a lot of places in my life, and that is staunchly stamping my feet down and bracing behind my shield and saying, no, I won't move. I think that that is the proper way of showing where the lines are.
Yeah, it's the only way to do it. And if you heard me complain about it the last episode, the thing that pains me most about Magic is that we didn't have the clout or power to really push back on the things that they were doing, but the RPG community certainly does. You know, between other developers, other game systems, we have options, and yeah, we can and we should. 1,000%.
I want to get that straight. Did you say you have your own game system? Because I thought Merwin was asking if you have your own adventures. Like, because
we have both.
You have both.
So we have a in progress game system that we're working on. That is, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. It's a very different take on some things, and it splits the line between the more social interactions and more combat interactions a little bit better, so that you're not having to worry about taking points away from what your character would be capable of in combat, and so that you can be better in social things. Because, you know, paladins can be well spoken, and sorcerers should be able to fight things with a knife and staff. And then we also have a lot of content where it's worlds that have been made specifically for D&D. I have entire adventures that have been written specifically for systems like Dark Heresy, Rogue Trader, and I've played a lot of different games. I do think that with more systems coming out and people making the changes that some have been announced, I won't name any companies in particular that may have said, hey, we're going to open everything up.
You can name whoever you'd like to name, because I've sent letters to lots of people to come on the show. So, I mean,
it's great to see.
No, it's no bullshit.
It's great to see Pathfinder put their best foot forward and say, you know, hey, we are going to do a no holds barred unlimited license for people creating content, because that's what we love about our community. And that is a shot across the bow to people who think that they can cinch down on the things that make a community great. Mm-hmm. D&D means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And I don't think that a personal stance of mine probably won't hold up in a court, but in the same way that if I write a program on my computer, Microsoft doesn't own it. If I make a adventure that happens to involve the system that you made, you don't own that either.
Yeah. Well, that's the insidious thing with.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah. That's the insidious thing with the language, is that they and again, none of this is a mistake. Like, these are educated and, you know, in the know people. So it's not a mistake that they wrote the language to give themselves the free license to use your stuff without compensation, so they can go, we don't own your stuff. You know, we could use it for free. That's all, and we can make money on it and tell you that you can't, but we don't own it at all. Yep. Oh, okay, cool, great, awesome.
And then on the opposite side, being able to tell you that they have the stance as the arbiters of truth to tell you whether or not your content is proper and should be allowed to be created.
Yep.
so they can shut you down at any point if you make something that they don't like. And
that's
don't have any way for you to appeal or say like, hey, maybe there's just one guy at your company that doesn't like it and everybody else does. It just still gets swatted down, really?
Yeah, no, and that was my one of we had this thing was the take at the end of the last show that Jugan didn't agree with 100%, but I'll restate it now. Which actually this probably should have been my thing that I forgot was stating this more clearly, but it bothered whether you believe in the politics and the worldview of it or not about the diversity, inclusion, all that. Well, that aside, like it puts a bad taste in my mouth that the company pre-set up being able to use that as their defense for being like the worst company on the planet. And they put that language in there so they could fall back and be like, no, we were trying to do this thing that you all believe in. It's so grimy. Like, cause you know, they don't care. They don't. There's no, they do what they need to do to sell what they need to sell. And that language is in there to give them an avenue to latch onto a movement, which whether you believe in it or not, is entirely up to you. And they could claim that moral high ground and use that as their club to beat third parties into submission so they could license for free, not steal their stuff.
That was also kind of tossed in there with that whole Spelljammer release debacle with nobody. And now, if that had been received well, not negatively, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. So it was just something that got received negatively. So that was another reason they had to throw that crap in there. But anyway.
Well, and that's one of the things that we've seen in a lot of articles that are talking about the OGL and why they just have to do it the way that they're doing it is in order to control what gets created with their product. And that's not theirs to control. You're talking about controlling the thoughts of your consumers, people who have paid for your books, who are interested in making an environment. And if you don't agree with what they make, that's fine, but you never have the right to tell them to stop having fun.
Yeah, actually, this is well, I was gonna. Sorry, this was a topic that came up chatting with somebody in our own Discord. There was a kind of a less than elegantly put point. Hello, good morning. A less than elegantly stated point about including or excluding content based on a variety of factors. And my take on it was just like you said, like the creators of the game should not take a stance on on excluding things and on saying what you can't do. That's not for them to decide because we'll take death as a perfect example. That's not a controversial topic, right? If their design stance in 5e and if you're a nerd person, you can see this was that characters shouldn't die because failing and losing isn't fun. That's why we have bounded accuracy, and they make it really hard for a character in 5e to die. It's a game philosophy, right? Mm-hmm. So that's fine. That's how you design the game. We know that, and we can change it. But if the next edition they say the next edition they come out and say characters cannot die, you have to play the game, and no one can die. They cannot fail. Like, well, no. Like you don't arbitrate that. You can't put that in the game as a hard rule that nobody can die.
Well, the great thing there is, even if they were to try and make such a change, it's up to the individual tables what the DMs themselves are going to do. We're not talking about tables that are run specifically by Hasbro.
Right.
Or it's totally Wizards of the Coast, guys. It's not Adventure League when you're playing at home with your friends. And if you're going to change something, that is totally up to you. You have control of your table, and whether or not a character is allowed to die can be a discussion to have at that table. If there is a DM and a group of players that want that epic feeling game where they're playing to a power fantasy, where they want to be able to be unbeatable heroes and experience that epic feeling, it might not be my kind of game, but I would defend to the death their right to play it that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
So very clear rules for how characters have to be allowed to die. If they want to subvert those rules and not have it in their game,
great. That's fine.
Yep. No, that's the one of the points I had made in a prior episode about the whole thing was, like, obviously people are going to people are terrible and will have terrible things, but what concerns me about putting this kind of stuff in the game is you create an environment where you can enable a toxic player to use that mindset to club other people into the game has to be this kind of way because the rules say it. Like, you don't give people that leeway. It's a table thing, and I think as DMs, you have a responsibility because you're the one presenting the game. You have a responsibility to provide a game that everybody can enjoy and be a part of. And if the rule maker is putting things out there that give people who want to, for whatever reason, use the company stance to try to abuse a table of people into playing the way they want them to play because that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, obviously you can kick the person out, but why even give them the license? Why even let them have the mindset that there are things that are forbidden and that it's we only allow what we allow, so nothing else can be in the space. No, don't give someone that leeway because that's you get people that abuse that and ruin it for others.
I think it's also important to understand that it is more than just a game. People are really vested in it. There are emotions vested in it. I know, like with my disabled group, there are people who are they are so vested in it that like it's more than just rolling the dice at the Monopoly table. I feel like sometimes, and when you're the DM and you're making calls and judgments, it's important. And to be fair and just. I don't think it was like that in the beginning. And you guys are talking about not as easy to die now in the new rules, but I can even think about when it was easy to die, and you were talking about Colin, you were talking about your own table, what you do. We had our negative rule when there was no kind of thing, and we had you'll get to -5, and then you're really dead.
Or negative constitution and all those house rules that we made.
Something, and that's what has made the game, and that's what Wizards still has to admit, whether they want to or not. The game started, and there were all these creators that created more and more, and the game just grew and grew and grew and grew. You can never take that part out of the game because it's more than just the game. And that's the big part.
And to go to one of the things that you said, Merwin, specifically about it being used as a cudgel against others, that's the fact that it continually ends up in there shows that is the intent, to allow that cudgel to be used against creators. And it's just an extension of a lot of what we've seen, unfortunately, at a large amount of tables in like the combat between deeply invested role players and the people who are often just called power gamers, but are just the people who are more invested in the strategy and combat system of the game.
Right.
They're constantly at each other's throats. And that's one of the things that's really great about being a DM, is to be able to put those people in the same game and make a game that they can both enjoy and show them why each other's stance is both not wrong and absolutely a useful thing to at least understand. And I think that's what needs to happen between the company, Hasbro, WotC, whatever you want to call them, the person who accidentally gave 100 monkeys a typewriter and suddenly created this new OGL because it was totally an accident, guys. We swear.
Oh, it was just a draft. It was a draft they signed out with an NDA and another contract to sign. Totally a draft.
You said the 100 monkeys comment. I keep thinking about, wasn't there a page in the old DM's guide with the monkeys? There was art with like all these monkeys, and there was a wizard. Am I wrong about this in the old DM's guide?
No, I think you're right. I remember. I remember there was specifically a wizard who had.
That would be great to see that as a meme right now. Pull that out.
I was talking about the what's that saying? If you give enough monkeys a typewriter, eventually
you get Shakespeare. Yeah.
That's
the theory, anyways.
is the same kind of I guess, come to Jesus meeting that you have between a role player and a power gamer needs to happen between WotC's, basically the people who are invested in making these rules and writing a open gaming license, if you can call it open, and the players who are going to be invested in their product and making the community what it is.
Yeah,
because if you lose either of those sides,
I saw what I saw a wonderful thing somebody was pointing out in regards to the whole thing. They're like, you want to complain about the third-party space and under monetization. Well, you could have put out more and better quality stuff in the last 10 years, or 18 years. I think it was 2004 was like their last heavy release schedule.
Merwin, are you telling me that getting 2 new magic items, 1 new spell, and 7 new races in a book isn't enough?
Not worth $50
over the span of 5 years?
Come on now.
I mean, there are plenty of ways that they could have brought in, third-party creators and said, "Hey, please come work for WotC."
Yep.
They have unlimited amounts of content to look back. I mean, just go grab the Encyclopedia Magica from 2nd edition and pull out and reprint the Tarot deck of many things.
I actually think
really blow people's minds.
That whole homebrew data thing that was created by fans. There must be so much content in there. It's just amazing. I mean, but they didn't know what to do with it or how to use it, and then they tried to figure out how they could monetize it, which is the wrong thing to do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched an interesting video today about the. It sounds like a lot of this is the misguided effort to create to guarantee the success of their conversion or attempted conversion to digital D&D. And that a lot of this stuff is geared towards destroying competition for that. And
absolutely,
yeah,
that is the angle they're coming at.
Oh, 100%.
They want to see Foundry and Roll20 going down in flames.
So now we're having some kind of microphone envy going on.
Oh yeah, well, no. What we have here is the Forever DMs fans are talking about how he sounds amazing because they got him a beautiful mic, so they're looking for their due. So
it's so shiny.
I'm a minimalist, so this is a minimalist mic right here.
But yeah, when it comes to the virtual tabletop and Wizards of the Coast trying to go and create their own, I'm all for it. I'll be honest. If they want to do that and they want to come into that space, they have the money and they have the power to make it happen. But instead of trying to bludgeon your competition into the ground with some kind of oppressive legalese, instead, why didn't you take whatever you had expended over there and put it into creating a superior product? If WotC released next year a virtual tabletop website with fantastic miniatures that you could, I'm serious, they could even do in a lottery system and sell you booster packs for all I care, for specialized minis, that integrated the books that you bought, that allowed you to get the maps for the specific adventure you were doing because they got artists to make those representations, and all of this was... a lot of people would go to that.
Wait, I apologize so much. I started to cough and I muted you by mistake when I coughed the first time.
Me?
Can you? If they make a VTT next year, it's. Oh god, it's a train wreck.
Oh, the brutality!
I just. I
hear your cough.
Was just like he said VTT. Get out of here.
Yeah, I got to hear your cough too.
I know. Sorry about that. So if they made a VTT next year and it didn't suck, booster packs, miniatures.
Yeah, if they made a VTT next year, they started selling adventures. They allowed you to buy the books. And they integrated it well and gave you a system that worked, that was beautiful. They could even sell booster packs, much like they did back when we were doing real tabletop. I bought the fully painted miniatures. I have the giants. I have the huge red dragon. It's gorgeous stuff. And if you were able to give that to us in a VTT with all of that money that you have, you could literally rake in cash forever.
Oh yeah,
because you're just printing money by giving your audience what they want. We are your players. We are your dungeon masters. And if you let us run the games that we want to run and play the games that we want to play freely, we'll pay you forever.
Yep.
But prick us and do we not bleed?
Exactly. No, let me. I'll tell you something. One of my best friends, the player who I have a bunch of horror stories about, who I shall not name, not that he knows how to use the internet and wouldn't ever hear me talk about him, but he was so excited to find out that there was Dragonlance official material coming out, because we loved that growing up. And I've tried not to dampen his enthusiasm, because obviously I'm a curmudgeon about the whole thing, and I got an axe to grind against wizards. And he calls me, he goes, I got the special edition, fancy, shiny book. My wife got it for me. He goes, dude, you got to buy this too. And I'm like, I don't really need to buy it. I don't plan on playing it. He goes, no, we got to support them so we can keep getting more Dragonlance stuff. And I'm just like, it's just like, I don't want to tell him there's no Santa Claus. I don't want to fucking do that to him. And it's killing me on the inside, because I'm like, oh God, I don't want to be that guy, because I'm not going to give him any more money, and he has no idea what's going on. It's so far out of his world. He's just so happy to have that content, which the reason I bring that up to your point is all they need to do, like you said, is just put out things that we want and we will buy them.
Absolutely.
It's, and
it will create health in that entire space, because what would happen is the same thing that always happens. It's the same thing that happened when they let the OGL come out and this leaked. All of a sudden, people started making their own systems. Other companies started saying, well, we're going to allow you to use our stuff freely. We're not going to, stab you in the back like that. If they made a quality VTT and handed it to everybody, then other virtual tabletops would need to expand as well. We would just start getting more quality equipment across the board, because they would compete for your business.
Yeah, we already see that. We already see that. I remember when we tried to do online gaming with my home group and everybody moved around. It was, you had Roll20 and Foundry, I think, and that was kind of it. And then when we, and then now I look on there and there's, I think it's Tailspire, it's called.
Yep.
It's beautiful. It's like it doesn't do systems, but it's awesome looking, And then there's through Steam they have a version. I remember seeing a Kickstarter forever ago for like an augmented reality setup you could get.
Dungeon Full Dive.
Yeah,
We're all Max supporters of that, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's all that stuff happens because, and like you said, because somebody has the idea to do this, and then people are like, I can make it better, and like I said, the D&D stuff is the same thing with the I get you got to protect your IPs because you don't want I get that,
yeah,
but here's the thing, like something like Forgotten Realms, which you guys playing, there is a massive amount of space. And when I played the campaign, it was the setting for the campaign I referenced earlier. I went through there. I had the gray box set, with the Horde Rider on the front of it, and I still have all the maps. I just found the folder the other day, in fact, and I remember going through there and looking for, okay, what isn't fully developed, and I found the river that runs out to the Sword Coast and connects to Baldur's Gate. There's a city on there called El Terrell. There was 2 sentences written in the book about it, and I'm like, all right,
I love those places.
That's where I'm setting. That's where I'm going to set my campaign at.
That's the DM's gold mine.
Oh yeah, yeah. But there's so much. There's so many cool things in that map and in those books that are barely dealt with. If you said that, hey, look, we're going to give out a certain number of licenses a year to create Forgotten Realms content for us that we have like final say over. Wizards could make the setting, leave those gaps, and intentionally have the third parties create to fill in those gaps. And what would we all do? We would all go buy the campaign setting to get the stuff we don't have. And then you'd be invested. The same thing they want to do, that creating that ecosystem, and they don't realize that.
Merwin, you made me think of a story. The original Deities and Demigods had Arthurian knights in it that you could play.
Yep.
And at the back they had some names just of Arthurian knights, and one of them was Dondeas La Savage, and that's become like the main character in our Ravenloft campaign. But just like you said, you find one thing in a book and it just like sparks your imagination to go like 1,000 places. It's great. It's so great.
There's so much content that's out there, and we've only scratched the surface in almost every single piece of media that we've left. Like, we keep seeing lots of stuff from the Sword Coast. We keep seeing lots of stuff from the Savage Frontier. We've got Icewind Dale and all that. We haven't seen a lot out of Cormyr. We never get to go to Kara-Tur. When was the last time anybody saw a bear, which is a bear Toril, the other side of it?
Yeah.
Like,
what about even like the Moonshays? There was a good book series about those. Minimal material. I remember Mastika and all that kind of stuff. Like they had. I remember that from the they had one book for it, and they had this cool thing about the Hishna and Pluma, the different kinds of magic. I'm like, that was so cool. Don't get anything else about it. I mean, even just maps like
and
that.
That's one setting.
Yeah, one
so
place.
Many.
Yeah, like even maps. Like it's like I would kill to be able to get maps of like every city, like high quality, like in the game. So that like El Terrell, like there's no map for that in the book.
Yep.
And like if you're not going to make one, let somebody else make one. Why do you care? Because again, if I buy the map, I got to buy your stuff too. So
right.
All right. Well, we jumped the ship here. We started talking about Wizards of the Coast a little bit.
I will fall on that sword. That's my bad.
No, you're good. I like to complain about them as well. I want to tease something. Then I want to get to your question about gaming philosophy. Then I want to close on things I hate, which is Wizards of the Coast. And this, am I remembering it correctly? You actually worked for them?
Yes.
Okay.
My first job was actually
Really?
for Wizards of the Coast.
Okay.
It wasn't directly a WotC store, but it was a Wizards of the Coast subsidiary called Gameskeeper.
Really?
And it was mostly a board game store. Lots of chess and Monopoly and Risk and all that jazz. But we also sold CCGs. And I already played Magic from a young age. And that also ended in me getting into Pokemon.
Okay.
Because that was part of my job. I had to actually wear the vest and have the badges and hand them out to all the kids. And it was
really?
Interesting experience. Yeah.
I tried to get a job. I tried to get a job at a Warhammer store. They happened to open one up in the mall in Syracuse. Oh. And I went down there, and I wasn't as good a miniature painter as I am now. But I submitted it, and I was just hoping and praying, and I never got picked to work there. It would have been the coolest job ever. They're also a terrible company, from what I understand. But that's crazy. That's crazy that you worked for them.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience working for a WotC subsidiary, but it was nowhere near as bad as some of the WotC stores we got training from.
Oh, really?
They had the sunken in eyes, pale skin.
Oh, really?
You're so lucky you work here.
Let me ask you: Did you sell Spellfire, the game?
No.
Really?
Yep, that was not a thing.
Really? I'm sorry. I just realized Wizards of the Coast before. No, because
it would have been 2000, 2001.
It's before Wizards of the Coast bought TSR.
No, because I was there when the 3.5 books or when the 3.0 books came out.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I am the reigning, defending, and only Spellfire tournament champion for Syracuse, New York. They had one. I showed up with I had figured it because I break games. I figured out an infinite turn deck in Spellfire, And I played one round, and the 12 people there like saw, and they're like, "Yeah, we can't beat that." And like, just stop playing. You can have the gift card.
Is this a theme with you, Merwin? People seeing you play a game and just go, nope.
Yeah, there are two things that I do. I get people to quit playing games. I've got plenty of people who were in D&D games that never came back. And then I seem to have a thing with like destroying companies I work for. About 80% of the places I've ever worked in my life have ceased to exist.
Oh, it's a pity you never worked for
Oh, why are
GW.
you telling me this now? I don't want to work with you anymore. Jeez. Oh my gosh.
No,
This isn't work for him. This is play.
I know. I'm just saying. Yeah, like my first job ever, Pizza Hut, gone. Worked for CompUSA, gone. I'm waiting to kill like Rent-A-Center and Walmart. Those are my dreams because I worked at both those places and they suck. So, my current company's awesome. I can't complain about that. So, all right, well, let's get off the wizard kick. I don't complain about that anymore. So you had a question about something we talked about in a prior game. So why don't you fire it off? I'll give you an answer, and we can use that to close out the second half of our show.
So one of the things that you had mentioned, I think it was in episode 10, was gaslighting as a storytelling tool. And I had that like just struck me because no one else that I had ever heard talking about D&D has ever talked about using something like that, which normally has massive negative connotations.
Yeah.
As a storytelling device. And that was something that I had a little bit of experience doing to my poor Spellweavers party. I false hydra'd them.
Yeah.
Which you're familiar with the false hydra.
Well, right? Explain it for the ones of people on the internet who don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm looking up my logic puzzle. I have a whole file of these. Go ahead. Please
For those of you who don't know, the false hydra is a particular monster. It's a homebrew monster that I don't have the name in front of me right now. I apologize for not citing you, but a great content creator came up with, which the entire defense of the false hydra is that it sings, and as long as you can hear its song, you cannot perceive it. It's not invisible, it's not intangible, it's not ethereal. You just explain away anything regarding its presence there.
It's like the perception filter from Doctor Who.
Exactly. And that creature just kind of grows and consumes people, and eventually, on a long enough time frame, can become a serious problem because it can grow to, colossal size given enough time. And with no one able to perceive it, well, it basically has a completely helpless food source wherever it goes. I got to build over probably 5 months by the suggestion of John Boy and Nala, a false hydra narrative which included notes from party members that the group had never met, disappearances of people that they thought had existed, and I just kind of said, no, that wasn't an NPC in this game. You must be thinking of something else. Down to one of the players had the regrettable choice of deciding that he was going to be from the town that the false hydra was based in. So I slowly reduced the number of siblings that person had over the course of the session until they came back. They're like, I thought I had like 4 siblings. No, you only ever had the one. And eventually they did figure it out, but it was a massive effort to try and deceive so many people, effectively leveraging the DM chair against them in an almost offensive fashion. But it turned out to be one of the greatest reveals that I've ever had in a game. So
nice.
What was the thing that had you bring up gaslighting as a potential storytelling?
Well, 2 things. So I remember reading about a video game that was designed where the game lies to you, the player, about things you've already done in the game. So it's trying to simulate your character's, the main character's descent and then recovery from madness in the game. And it was a super interesting article because it goes into, something happens and you're given this base of what's going on. So this is your knowledge base. So that's the reality for you as the game player, is what you get told at the beginning, right? And then, sometime in the narrative when when most people have kind of not forgotten, but it's just they take the narrative for granted. But then something's different. And then the characters in the game explain to you that never happened, or this person was never there. And it was so interesting because how many times in your games, and I have some awesome players, but not everyone's a good note taker. I have a couple people that learn that's a good idea with me because I'm a lore whore. I love dumping. I just have a ton of that shit everywhere. Although I did get a good compliment from a player to segue, that your world seems real vibrant because you have little explanations for things. I'm like, really? That's awesome. So thank you very much. If you ever listen to this, I really appreciated the compliment. Back to the story. But I give out a lot of stuff like that, and there's so many times when people are like, they'll come up with a bad memory of something, and they'll go like, no, it was this character who had said that, and they're going to do this, so they've got to be the bad guy. That kind of scenario, right? And I would normally, I used to correct that stuff, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll correct that because the character might remember, but the player doesn't. But then I'm sitting around one night and I'm listening to them tell this, weave this story, probably better than the one I actually wrote, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, no, they're working themselves up this course of action based on bad information. At any point in time, they could have asked me, is this what's going on? And I would, maybe I would give it to them, but I thought about it. I said, well, hang on. Your characters aren't perfect either, unless you have this stupid keen mind feat, which is cheating. But not every character's got a super high intelligence, and I can tell you from real life, people under stress remember things differently. It's one of the reasons why eyewitnesses are very unreliable in criminal prosecution. Yep. So if the player misremembers it and they don't ask for mechanical reasons to verify what's going on, and they're enjoying and they have this shared false memory, I'm not going to change that. And then it creates a twist I don't have to write. Not only do I have not to write it, it's an organic one because they're going to make the mistake. And then when the reveal happens, they're going to go, oh my God, I got that wrong. And now they're in a situation they weren't expecting to be in of their own making. And it's the same. It's all on the same lines as if your party decides that based on the clues you've given that the wrong person's the bad guy, don't change who the bad guy is. Let them be wrong about it and deal with the consequences. So I had started to do that. I'm like, I'll let it go
now
and see where it goes.
Now you talked about bandwagon, gaslighting.
Yes.
And it made me think about something else I've been looking at. And then you were talking about the Hydra, right?
Mm-hmm. The false Hydra.
False Hydra. You guys heard about logical fallacies?
Yes, I believe that's the substantive nature of all of our political debates.
Okay.
The underpinnings of logical fallacies.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So no, I had found this list of I think it's 15 logical fallacies, straw man, slippery slope, special, and they're all great to add into your games. That's like that's like a whole series for DMs to go over the logical fallacies. People that are unfamiliar with them.
Yep. And then I have an older story.
Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle. That would be the original OGs. Sorry, I had to.
No, you're good. No, that's and I have to close this out. I have a story about why about how this can go very well. Now, obviously, if you're a dick DM or you're abusive or you have terrible people, whatever, this can go sideways. And I've read a lot of the refutations, like you shouldn't do this because it's triggering to people, or it's you create you can create an environment where people are they become paranoid because they think you're always out to get them and stuff like that, which you shouldn't do.
But on the flip side, there's a huge contingency of D&D players that gamers from all over the different systems that love psychological trauma involving their characters, and some DMs like creating those narratives as well, and seeing people fight through that. And if you can find that niche, by either knowing your players through a good session 0 or just engaging your connection with close friends to set up big emotional moments. You can make the kind of moments in a game that would go with like the swelling of an epic soundtrack in a movie.
Yeah.
All right, Corin's
And that will
coming.
make people
Corin,
feel that same
Corin,
thing.
You are coming for the basement of arcane secrets. You're coming.
Yeah.
I'm getting it ready. I'm getting a good group
Yeah.
together.
So no, like I said, I'll give you a story of where this worked out perfectly. And if you were keeping yourself to the rule that you can't deceive a player, in order to deceive their character and create something, this would have worked. So we're playing the Dragonlance campaign back in the day. It was one of my favorite settings. And I believe I don't know if I've told a horror story about the test of the Tower of High Sorcery before. Have I told you the story before, Doc?
I think you have.
Yeah. I don't know if did I tell it in the podcast? I might have. But anyways, I won't tell that story again, but there's almost nothing written about the tests of High Sorcery, at least not at the time, except for a couple of things. That the people in the test, they perceive everything as really happening, and that it is designed to test their commitment to magic, designed to test the philosophy of magic they believe in, and to make sure that it matches the robe they're choosing. So if you're going to be a white robe versus a black robe versus a red robe, you need to live the philosophy of that order of magic, right? Which, sorry if you're not familiar with the details of this. I'm trying to get through it without talking too much, but
You.
yeah, I know, right? Thank you. No, so you have to. So you go into it, and the character's supposed to believe it's real, and they don't technically know when the test starts, and then they go through really traumatic things during the course of the test that test their commitment to it and all these things. And the last line is that every wizard comes out of the test changed and scarred in some way by the experiences they have in the test. Some are physical. The head of the Red Robes in the Dragonlance saga is Dr.Pletorius, who has a limp because he was physically beautiful and vain, and proud of his body as a wizard going into the test, and then he comes out crippled. Obviously, Rasslin, the best character in the series, the main character, the coolest one, gold skin, hourglass eyes, health shattered, all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm playing in the campaign, and my friend is playing a wizard, and we're getting to that point in time, and I'm like, okay, I need to find a way to do this, because it can't just be me saying, okay, your test has started, and then expecting him to really have a genuine, honest experience with his character, and then also be able to enjoy it fully, because once you know what's happening, obviously it's hard to not metagame. You have to really. The reason I have player alignments is because you have to really get to a high level as a player to do things, knowing, meta knowledge and doing things that are different than what you would do. So I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? And I was thinking about it for weeks, and I finally hit upon the idea. I was gonna lie to him about what was going on, and manipulate him as a human being. And to do that, I talked to the other two players in the game and said, hey, look. This is coming up. I need him to not know what's happening. So there's going to come a point in the game where I let you guys know things have started. And from that point on, I want you to play like you normally would play, but understand that there's no consequences for your characters. But do all the things you normally would do as if I was going to murder you guys. And then I might feed you guys stuff to test the player. So they're in on the game. We play a session, and they make their way to the Tower of High Sorcery. We go through all this, and I go, okay, you go in there and you have your meeting with the leaders of the orders, and they ask you what order do you plan to pledge to, and he's like black because he's psycho. I'm going to be an evil wizard. That's fine. Do you understand the philosophy? Yes. Okay. All right. So you're going to leave the tower. You have 1 month to get your affairs in order because you may not survive the test. So you might die. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I'm committed to doing it. I'm going to pass my test. He goes, okay. You will return in 30 days, and at that time, we will begin your tests. Deal with your friends, tell them goodbye so they know what's going on. Because if you bring them, they're here if bad things can happen. So he leaves. He goes, oh, great, awesome. And then they leave the tower. That's the end of the session. And he's going on and on about how cool it's going to be. It'll be, however many games we play until it's time to go back. And what's he going to do in the meantime? He's going to figure all this stuff out. What he doesn't know, though, is this was the start of the test. Yeah. So he thinks I'm giving his character time away to resolve his business before coming back. We get together, and the next 3 sessions are, cleverly hidden things that test the philosophy of magic and his commitment to it, all that stuff. Work all that shit out. The other 2 players are in on it. He has no idea this is going on. So he does things he finds a chance to get a spell book, so he's all for murdering another wizard, which is not how that's supposed to work in the game. In the context of the game, that's not how it's supposed to go. So he's doing all these things that he would not do ever if he knew he was in the test. So he made real choices for his character based on the kind of character he was playing, thinking that this was his last run before he went to the tower, and that this wasn't really what's going on, including getting to a point where he had to choose to kill off party members in order to protect another wizard. That was going to teach him, right? And it was a real struggle and choice because we don't mess around.
Did he go? Did he?
Yeah.
Did he
Yeah. Oh no, he killed the other character. Absolutely, 100%. And it's one of those things where
at least he picked the right robe.
Yeah, because he didn't realize we were doing this for weeks. This played out the way it should have for his character, and then at the end of it, he kills him, and and then I go, with that, he's dead. The other character, is gone, and this wizard goes to hand you whatever, and at that point in time, the illusion falls, and you find yourself standing in the chamber with the Council of Wizards staring over you, looking down, we've seen the measure of you. You are accepted into the Order of the Black Robes, kind of thing. And he's like, I can't, and he freaks out. It's this huge moment. He's like, I cannot believe you guys knew what was going on the whole time, it's a long story. You couldn't do that if you said, well, I can't lie to him about what's going on. He's got to know what's happening, and if I didn't get the other players in on it, they would have done things differently because there are things that they had to do to create the conflicts that they wouldn't either have known to do or wouldn't naturally have done if I didn't get them in on it. So we purposely lied to one player, the 3 of us, to create this. It was one of the best games we ever had. It's a story we tell all the time. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So that's what made me think about it.
One of my best was pulling someone aside and making them a doppelganger before the whole session started. Just a fabulous game when you can pull one of those off.
Yeah. So lies, deception, psychology, and torment, and gaslighting are all tools in the DM's tool belt. I'm glad we can raise an entire generation of sociopaths.
Bring up some more. We'll bring up some more. Stay tuned.
All right. Well, hey, we're just about to hit the 3-hour mark. Corbin, I've had a great time talking to you. I'm glad that you were here. I hope you had a good time yourself.
I absolutely did. This has been fantastic. I have loved every minute of being here with you guys. I can't wait to hear the continuation of this stuff because you guys are going to go on, and I'm definitely going to keep listening. You have you'll add me to the people who log in.
Yes. We're officially up to 2.5 people who listen to us now.
And maybe you'd be our first returning guest too. Maybe one day you'd be our first returning guest.
Return guests?
Be beyond flattered.
That's.
I think you're probably going to have a lot of people who are fighting for this seat to be sitting here with you two.
Well,
I will say a quick compliment to Doc here, which I kind of gave earlier to somebody else, but before I get into things I hate, a quick compliment to you, the energy and zeal with which you pursue people to be on here and get this shit together is fucking amazing. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Looking at Kaz the DM. You're out there, buddy. You may be up next. Get in touch. DM me. Are you listening tonight? All right. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. So things I hate.
DMs.
Yeah. So things that I hate. I will keep it simple. We were already talking about Wizards of the Coast. I do not like the uncertainty they've created for a lot of people. And I hate the fact that there are people, like I said, that may end up, not getting into the hobby, not getting into creating things that could have done it, and put them right off of there. So That's what I hate tonight. What?
I have shit that I hate, and it's something that.
Oh, hit me up.
Something you guys were talking about earlier, and first, and give an example. 3001: A Space Odyssey, right? Arthur C. Clarke writes his book, his finale, 3001, his book finale, and the big ending is the monoliths get destroyed by a computer virus. But the problem is that his book is written prior to Independence Day, the movie, but his book is not going to be released till after Independence Day. So he has to put this whole thing in his book about how he came up with this before the movie Independence Day. Now, why is Arthur C. Clarke having to explain what shit I hate? We have created so much, and you were talking about this before, where someone's already made it or someone's already done it. If it's your idea and you haven't seen it before, it's still your idea. Don't burn your idea to the ground because somebody else made the blue dragon the guy in disguise. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So please, if you're out there and you're a writer or you're a fantasy person, the shit I hate is just because someone else did it doesn't mean you can't do it again. And you didn't think, if you thought of it first, you did think of it first. Don't just somebody, see somebody else do it. Your idea is still your idea. Hold on to it.
Never knock somebody else's idea out either because you've seen someone else come up with the same thing.
Yeah.
If you've ever played through a module under different DMs, you'll know that there are different twists, there are different turns, there are different NPCs. Everyone's going to read it differently. I've run Keep on the Borderlands 15 times myself, and every time it's different in so many ways. So 2 different people coming up with the same idea, yeah, there's going to be enough nuance for everyone to enjoy.
That's right.
Don't knock your own ideas out either.
And the best thing is, if you do use someone else's idea and you have a twist coming, all those cheaty face metagamers in your group are going to get kicked right in the nuts when you pull the rug off from under them, and that's what they deserve.
All right, I'm going to go first.
You're going to go first tonight?
Yeah, I'll
all
go
right.
first tonight.
Wait, real quick.
Go ahead.
Thanks, everyone, for being here. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on our website, dungeonstudios.co. Check us out. Join our Discord. Please give your time, energy, love, attention, and likes to the Forever DM, the best available, and all of his amazing web content. We really appreciate it. I love it.
Forever Adventures on YouTube.
And then just in the event that we can never coordinate and get your, Doodle Poodle on here, how can they find his work as well?
Yeah, where do we find that?
You can find his work. He has a Buy Me a Coffee. I believe it is Doodle Poodle. You can definitely find him on Twitter. He posts there all the time under Doodle Poodle X. So you look out for him.
And I believe we're going to be able to find him in the Chronicles soon, or currently, right?
Yeah, that is going to be coming up soon. That's what I think.
Wonderful. And we were talking potentially about a project in the pipe between us and him that I'm looking forward to.
And
so
I think this week we also show up on the Steal Your Podcast.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So we had a couple weeks back. We had Mike and Jeremy from Mike and Jeremy Steal Your Podcast as guests on our show. We had a good time, and we are going to be the next podcast they steal. I think the episode comes out this week.
Yeah,
the Game Heist. Check them out as well. Friends of the show, part of the studio, and all around awesome people. So, Doc, hit us with the intro. Talk us out. You start. I'll finish.
All right. No matter how you start, you always start out odd, but with effort and creativity, you always roll initiative with the prime advantage.
And everybody, thank you very much for listening. Just remember, you play tabletop RPGs because they are unlimited. So why listen to conversations that are any different? You guys have a great night. Thank you, Corin. Thank you, Doc.
DM.
And goodbye, Internet. We are out of here if I can figure out how to end the show. It's this one right here. Good night.